is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
He has worked on this shot.
Look how much time he had to set that one.
Nobody came out and played the big guy outside. That's his 18th of the year.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
That's the highlight of them all.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Gets it back, gets it out. Caravan comes in, and he's going to make that one.
They all are threats. No question about it.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Giving it back to Davis with 5 to shoot. Taken on. And it's blocked. Pulled down by Mensah. They have the one timeout. Are they going to take it or not? They don't have the scorers on the floor. It's Butler with 2 seconds. He's got to put it up. And he wins it with the jumper.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Oh, man, it is a gorgeous day where we are here in Central Texas, almost hot, like 90 degrees or so, as we have finally kind of turned that corner towards spring, maybe one more snap. I don't think so. Usually around Easter, which is, of course, coming up this weekend. National championship tonight in men's basketball. The women decided theirs yesterday. We're going to get into a lot of that. And, of course, San Diego State, UConn, we're going to hear from two that follow them and cover them from San Diego and also from up in UConn where they are in stores. Also, there's that big business story about the UFC and WWE and Endeavor. We'll kind of dig into that a little bit. It's the week of the Masters. I think, in my opinion, there's the convergence or there's the merging of all the college football, high school football, pro football in the fall. But to me, in my opinion, this week, when you have the NCAA championship tonight, the week of the Masters in baseball just started, is really kind of the turning of the page when it comes to what is going on in sports. Is men's basketball, women's basketball ending after tonight, and then you surge into the Masters and then baseball and NBA playoffs.
Yeah, tonight's going to be really exciting. Yesterday was a thing. I guess we'll get into it in a minute, and I'll try to be professional. I'm really excited about tonight. I'm very curious to see if San Diego State can hold off Connecticut from going on just those ridiculous runs that they go on. Every time Miami would pop up, it was like Connecticut was just slapping them around, and they'd be like, "Oh, hey, buddy, I'm sorry. You want to get up? You want to get up? No. Wham! Again, another run." That's kind of how it went for Miami the other day, and nobody's really been able to stop Connecticut doing it this last month. So very curious to see how that goes tonight.
Yeah, I mean, UConn, San Diego State ought to be a heck of a game. Huskies took care of their business without too much sweat. And, of course, the other one was quite the contest with a terrific, memorable ending there with the Aztecs getting that W at the very end. So, a couple of different types of games. But here we are, and here's the final night of college basketball for the foreseeable future. So hopefully it goes out with a bang and goes out with a heck of a contest. I spent most of my time, kind of dipping into the WrestleMania stuff over the last couple of days and checking out a lot of that, but definitely watched a lot of the men's basketball and a little bit of the women's as well. And then, like you said, MLB's going on and a lot of other stuff. So definitely a fun sports weekend, no matter who you were and who you were watching or who you were rooting for. There's a lot to take in. So, yeah, it was great.
Craig's got the unbeaten Rangers cap on.
Sweep.
Yeah.
Start of the season.
Yeah, I wasn't even planning on, I don't know, grabbed a hat. I mean, basically is what happened. I don't overthink it like that or put too much thought into that.
Well, I do have a Masters shirt on, and every week of the Masters, if I remember, and again, I could forget here in 3 or 4 hours when I get home, I'll try to wear a shirt with the Masters logo. We will have a Masters Picks contest. We will get to that at some point as Bear Ridge Golf Club, who is our sponsor of all golf, everything golf. Lee Trevino again at 4 on Augusta National. But we'll have a couple of dozen golf balls. And it might be not just Pro V1s, which is as good as it gets, but maybe a couple of dozen golf balls of your favorite, whether it could be a Bridgestone or something else, Shrixon or whoever it might be, to the winner. But we'll get into that a little bit later on, and I'll probably put some information out also on Twitter and in the chat room. So UConn, San Diego State, two coaches that are both from coaching families tonight, and we'll have Bryce Miller, who covers San Diego State, at 3:45, David Borges, who covers Connecticut, at 4:30. But let's get into what was a record-breaking weekend up in Dallas at the Women's Final Four. LSU, Kim Mulkey, her 4th national title. The numbers were huge. I haven't seen the ratings, but obviously they've been big. And it got more attention this weekend than perhaps any other Final Four in the history of women's basketball. And then there was like catfight drama with Caitlin Clark and also with Angel Reese. And it's just kind of one of those things. Do you think because it's two women that it's different than if two guys were going at it with any kind of, this right here or pointing at the ring? Was it overmodulated because of that?
I think this is nothing. I mean, it's great. Look, what's been I'll just tell you, frankly, my complaint about women's basketball for the longest time is that, you had too much of a talent disparity. And then the other thing was always silly was there's all these rules put on women's sports that they can't do. Something don't showboat, don't do those things. Do whatever you want. Make it fun. If they're having fun and nobody, did anybody get punched? No. Are parents going to have to, maybe tell a kid, hey, that's not really my style, you should not do that? Okay, then tell that to your kids, because it's your job to do that as a parent. If you're freaking out about this because women shouldn't do this, you are a misogynist or whatever you want to call it. It's ridiculous. Let them have fun. I thought it was cool. Go ahead. Talk the noise you want to talk.
Craig?
Yeah, I think all this is just kind of silly. It was a fine game. It wasn't a great game by any means. It was a fine game. The championship had some better games throughout the tournament before that. But congrats to Kim Mulkey and to the Tigers. She's one of the best to ever do it. I don't think anybody can debate that. I don't have some vendetta against her because she was in Waco at one point in time and now is at LSU. When she left, she apparently left on her own terms or apparently did not. And no one involved is willing to say exactly what happened, at least not yet. We kind of all think we have an idea of what sort of happened, can kind of read into comments, but she at least has never gone on the record and stated what fully happened on her end of things as far as why she left Baylor. And I'm sure that at one point we'll get that after winning a title at LSU. I'm sure there will be another book coming at some point now because there's a new chapter to tell. And I'm sure she'll want to have her side of the story out there eventually, whatever that is. Mack Rhodes and Linda Livingstone have kind of just wished her well and defaulted to her on any other side of it. And, that part of the story for, I know, people around here is probably, until that's answered, is always going to be a thing of why did they force her out, or why did she leave, or why didn't they do more, or why didn't they do, whatever the case may be. So I know for people around here, that story yesterday is a little different than everybody else around the country watching because there's a different angle to it. So from my point of view, I look forward to seeing that one day, but I do know it was a tough pill to swallow or to watch for a lot of those same people who are now seeing her cut the nets with a different team. And knowing are probably thinking like I am of is she going to do that more in Baton Rouge than she did in Waco? Because she already has one. She doesn't look like she's going anywhere for a while. Two don't seem like they're out of the question. Angel Reese is, a sophomore this year? She's got the number 1 recruiting class. So I think that she could very well hit 3 in Baton Rouge as well, and that would be a huge accomplishment. But just to get the one that she did and get it within 2 years is a huge deal. So commend her for that. I'm not surprised by that at all. I don't think – I saw a lot of wow, it happened so quickly. And I'm in the transfer portal era and just what she does automatically, I don't think that was surprising at all, especially when you saw South Carolina gets beat. I thought they were going to cakewalk on Iowa. I know everybody, as soon as I saw this, all these articles on Saturday night or whenever it was of LSU has this, but they don't have Caitlin Clark. And there's all these, how is LSU going to stop Caitlin Clark? And I'm how the hell is Iowa going to stop LSU? What are we talking about? And sure enough, they get out there. And unfortunately, officiating took over the headlines right away because Reese was in trouble and Clark was in trouble. And, there's all these fouls being called. I think, first things first, whoever's in charge of the officiating for that game next time you need to sit, like if you didn't already, sit everybody down before the game and get them to catch their breath so that they don't go out on the court and start acting like they are the ones that are in charge of the everything, this and that, as far as, like, let the girls play and realize you're rolling this thing. Because I think the referees came out way too overmodulated, like hyperventilating or just feeling like they had to make calls to be a part of the action to do their jobs right. And it's like, no one, I promise you, is here to see you. Absolutely nobody. So director of officiating for women's basketball and for every sport, ahead of the championship games, can you please just sit your people down and let them know, like, take a deep breath. This isn't about you. Stay out of the way. Do your jobs. But it's not about you. Get out of the way and let the girls or boys play. Like, let these teams go out there and fend it off. When Kaylin Clark is on the bench or Angel Reese is on the bench, like, luckily for LSU, they had others that stepped up, like Carson or Alexis Morris, and they did their thing. But you're here to watch the stars, too. So I thought that was a poor look for women's basketball, was to have that type of officiating, and probably what's going to be, like, what the most watched game ever, one of the most watch games ever. I thought they really shorted their fans in a way there, but that happens on the men's side too. So, yeah, I mean, kudos to Mulkey. One day I'm sure we'll hear the rest of the story from her end, and I wish the officiating would have been a bit better. And I thought that, it was overall, to finish up here, I thought the women's season was fantastic. They had some great teams, and the Angel Reese and Kaylin Clark stuff, I mean, I can see both sides of it. Clark's taunted players before. Reese probably overdid it a little bit, following her around and kind of egging it on a little bit, but I didn't have a major problem with it, and I just hated that after the game was over with, that instead of talking about really anything, the two biggest topics were officiating and that. And that was it. Not the game was great, not the players were great, not the coaching was great, not the tournament was great. There was some of that, but it was mostly the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark stuff, and whose side were you on, and who's trashier than who, and whoever, and then it was the officials, and I just thought that was a real shame for the game.
I think there was a lot made of this was the first time that the Final Four was going to be all women officials. I don't give a damn if it's men or women. Just get the right ones. Let them play. Let the players play. Sometimes the tournament, the way the game is played, that is not allowed to happen, but that was something that I think probably that overshadowed a lot of the game during the game, because here's the deal. Reese got 2, Morris got 2, Clark got 2, and then a third before the halftime. There was the technical foul. The big center for Iowa had 2 or 3 quickly, and it just takes away. You want to see the stars play. Now, if it was just obvious, then I get that. All right, Angel Reese, one note about her. She had 457,000 Instagram followers. I can't even fathom what that means. She now had, earlier today, over 800,000. And I believe that some of her NIL is connected to that. A lot of the athletes are. Yeah. And so that right there did boost her Instagram following. Whether or not, I think the only thing I saw about it was not that it was the fact that it was almost like following her around like you would see, ducks following each other around.
By the way, when you, if you're a person who's against NIL, most of the NIL that's not in men's basketball or in football is people being able to make money off their social media. That's it. That's all it is. Is, hey, drink this no sugar soda pop. I'm a college athlete. Do it. That's all it is. That's it, just making a couple bucks. It's nothing recruiting ties and all that. So I think that's great. Craig was a lot more calm about he had a more well-reasoned. I'm glad he said that. But I do think that, and I just think it's unfortunate look, I know that history kind of is written by the victors, and Kim winning this title, she's an excellent coach and all that. But I don't think she handled, the way out the door here very well. I don't think she she took a shot, I thought, last night, thinly veiled at Baylor, when she was talking about Scott Woodward. I just don't think that that's necessary. I don't think it's necessary. And she left here because she didn't want to be here anymore, and that's fine. And there are reasons I could tell you that would be or not, but again, Craig said, I'm not Kim. I can't tell you. I can say what I know for almost a fact that it was, but until it comes from her, it's not necessarily all that true.
We've been down that road 2 years ago after the men won the national title. I'm not going down that. For those of you who are new viewers, it was messy, and there's a lot of different things that went down. But I do know I had a conversation with her the week that really got high drama, and had a conversation with her, and what I was told is not what was the narrative or why she left. That's okay. It doesn't matter. She's gone. Good luck to her. Good luck to LSU. They might win 3 or 4 in a row with who they have coming back and also who they have coming in.
Well, in the transfer portal and just the fact that, like I said, Reese has a couple more years left, and I just saw like she's in the process of getting like a Barbie deal, like a Bayou Barbie, because that's her nickname. So like they're just getting started. I do think that's one area where, it's just true. I don't try to BS people on here, but I was sitting there watching. I was like, this is Kim at her full potential, because the fan base is so large, the support is so big. There's no limitations really, like there was at Baylor. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Like she's the backing that she has and the size of it all. And like, let's face it, for that Louisiana fan base, there's literally nothing she can do really. Like, any comments she made in the past at Baylor, like they would have, and she had people at Baylor that had her back, but they got drowned out so quickly by media or whatever. She's got a different kind of machine behind her now at LSU as far as support goes, and I think that's something that is definitely a benefit for her, that she's got like basically unwithering support no matter what she does. And they will have her back, and I think that people at Baylor did as well, but it's just a different kind of backing, just strength-wise that she has. And I think, she's got, they're in a different situation financially where, a lot of what you were eating up here at Waco, it's SEC money over there, and they can do a lot more. And so I think she's, surrounded herself with the people she grew up with and the place that she loves, and they've got a good thing rolling right now, and she got an AD she likes, and I think she's going to have a lot of success, but there absolutely will always be that little asterisk or note as far as the end of that Baylor career, and like I said, one day maybe she clears that up. There's some people that tell you she was fired. Some people that tell you it was her decision. There's some people that tell you this or that. It doesn't really matter. But she's a great coach, and, that's always going to be probably a fresh wound for some people. And, eventually we're going to see her win a title, at LSU. Like, that was inevitable to me. Like, that was the one thing that was for sure going to happen. And I'm almost kind of glad it happened so quickly so that everybody who was going to be affected by it could kind of just get that out of the way. You know what I mean? Like, now she's won it. Now, okay. And now we move forward and see what happens with Nikki Collin, and see what happens with the Baylor program, and see what happens with Mulkey and LSU the rest of the way. But she's set up really well, no doubt. But they're still clearly, based on the AD shot she took in the post-game press conference, Baylor's not entirely off her mind. That's for damn sure.
All right, so we have that, the Masters Week, the men's championship tonight, and a lot more to get to, including our guest who covers San Diego State and UConn. This is an interesting story. And I shared a note with Bob Thompson. He never worked for Endeavor, but worked with them. Endeavor has decided and agreed, WWE and UFC, to a $21+ billion merger. They've planned to form a multi-billion-dollar live sports and entertainment company with those two entities. The deal for the WWE is $9.3 billion, and the UFC is $12.1 billion. And I asked Bob Thompson again. He goes, "Yeah, I never worked for them, but I worked with them." And I've seen him on Twitter a few times when people have brought up the Endeavor and the Big 12 Endeavor connection, and that they're the PR firm, and that he said that's not their style, that's not their MO to be like out there trying to stir the pot. He did say to me, they damn sure have, he didn't say damn, they sure have a lot of debt right now because of this right here of $21.4 billion.
Yeah, the Endeavor Big 12 thing, I mean, I know where that started, and like the same parrot keeps parroting that over and over, despite the fact that the guy who started that whole rumor was Bob Thompson. That's where they like piggybacked it off of and used his tweet, and he said time and again that's not what he was referring to. Now, you can believe him or not, but there's people that on the Pac-12 fence, I guess you would say, that keep using his tweet, and he said that that's not what he was indicating. So I guess they just don't believe him in that one instance. He's lying. But yeah, I felt like he kind of tried to say like, no, that's not what I was getting at. But that doesn't prevent people from running with their own narratives. So yeah, I mean that's something that Endeavor has been mentioned here lately, a part of, but they've clearly been busy with other things. I don't know how they had time with all this Big 12 and the wrecking of the Pac-12 they were doing. I think those offices must be incredibly busy right now. But, yeah, it's a huge move for them. They're a gigantic company. And, they already had the UFC and have had them for quite some time. Dana White and Vince McMahon get along well and have always had mutual respect. And WWE's been, out there for sale. They've been promoting the fact that they were, looking for somebody to come in and give them an offer, and setting up the company the last couple of years to do, just that, was to get sold. They've been in the process of this for quite some time. So, you thought it could be that Saudi Arabia fund, thought it could be Endeavor, thought it could be a couple of other places as well. But, yeah, they ultimately go Endeavor, or Endeavor goes WWE, and $9+ billion is pretty incredible for the carny show that is WWE, and the job that they've done to raise it to that level is pretty incredible. So, yeah, they're going to merge into one company under Endeavor. I think it's TKO, I think, is what they're going to be listed at on the stock market. But UFC and WWE are going to be combined into, not combined as far as the companies go, but under one roof together. And that'll be very interesting. I think Dana White and Vince McMahon will be, whatever chairman type roles, and we'll see how the rest of it shakes out. But yeah, that was a big business story, and it's a new era in the WWE, that's for sure. And very interesting to see them paired with UFC in this framework under Endeavor.
All right, today at 4:00, Grant McCaslin.
Can't believe Cody Rhodes lost last night, though. For those of you that watched, that was
Dusty Rhodes' son. Grant McCaslin today at 4 will be introduced as the new head coach at Texas Tech. Ross Hodge, official now, the new head coach, interim, been bumped up from assistant coach, to head coach at North Texas, and we hope to have both of them on at some point this week. Also, Eddie Lampkin of TCU is reportedly headed. In fact, he's going to Colorado in the transfer portal and already headed to Colorado. And then this story that just came down, Ashley Hodge has a big piece. LJ Cryer plans to enter the portal. Ashley Hodge has a note in the premium section about speaking with his father, but he has informed the coaching staff that he is headed out somewhere else. In fact, Mike Bean on the chat room mentioned, is it Kansas? Somebody else mentioned Texas Tech. But LJ Cryer headed to play somewhere else and not at Baylor.
I think, to me, the most logical fit for him, especially if you're talking about name, image, and likeness being a factor in this, and it absolutely has to be, would be Texas A&M. I really do think he fits what Buzz does, and they need somebody like him. Hate to see him leave Waco. I know that Jack mentioned that Ashley might have told his dad that they played less physical in the ACC, and I know an ACC team that was in last place in the league this year, and love to have a guy who can score like that. I don't have any NIL business there, but I can give him a good pep talk about it. But no, I think it's unfortunate, but I do think that, look, with the guards that Baylor has coming in.
You think that is going to be different than him wanting to go play for Coach Tang at Kansas State?
See, I don't know if that's. I don't think that. I don't know if those things are going to happen. The Scott Drew brotherhood. What?
It's LJ Cryer's decision.
It is, absolutely. But
I'm just using that.
Also,
as
Jerome Tank's decision.
But it's Jerome
too.
Is there going to be transference there? I don't know. I think that there's going to be some of that eventually, maybe one day. But for a guy like LJ, I don't know. I think a lot of it has to do with LJ's name, image, and likeness, much like Matthew Meyer. And is that at Kansas State, or is that at a place like Texas A&M, who, made a run this year and got some rich alums that might be excited about basketball right now?
I mean, I don't know if y'all remember when you brought this up a week ago, and I said, yeah, we'll see as far as, him coming back. And you kind of looked at me weird, and I was like, we'll see. And sure enough, after he decides a week ago that he's going to test the waters of the NBA draft, even though most people know that he's not going to be swimming in those for very long, sure enough, he's in the transfer. I saw this coming a mile away. NIL absolutely at the top of the list, in my opinion, as far as, motivation goes. And, if that's the case, which I fully believe that it is, at least that's one of the top leading reasons, then that's the water we're playing in now. So that's the pool he wants to swim in, and let's see what he's able to find. But that's absolutely no surprise, because that's exactly what I expected when he initially decided he was going to enter the draft, and then, very much left the door open to returning to college. I don't know how often it's going to be where guys test the waters or say they're going to go exploring, and really that leads them right back where they were. Especially, a guy like him who for a fact will have Big 12 teams and beyond having already contacted him, I'm sure. So yeah, that's a bummer for Baylor basketball. But I was kind of set up to prepare for that, or I was in my head. I was already preparing for that, and so we'll see if Scott Drew and staff were doing the same. But yeah, they've got a big player to now have to go and try to replace.
It is already everybody. All the fan bases are looking, the opportunities, and I've seen it already from Tech, Kansas State fans, among others. Like Paul, you mentioned A&M. Who knows? Maybe it's even somebody else in the state, Houston. I don't know. But there's that story with LJ Cryer. When we come back, a couple of notes about women's basketball. One more note about women's basketball, and it's about the income. One of the biggest problems with women's basketball is it's not a revenue sport. Not even the elite of the elite really earn revenue because of the television dollars. Charlie Baker, the new president of the NCAA, says that's about to change, or says it might change. And also, what is, for example, a school like an LSU or what Baylor has been like? How much money do they actually lose every year with women's basketball? That's a note that's on the table because the ratings are going to be fantastic and have been. The attendance, of course, was good and has been, at least lately. And then also the fact that there's a new TV contract coming up. We'll have that and more. And this is 365 Sports.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef, and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu from our pasture to your plate. TexasBeefHouse.com.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $8,250 or get 1.9% for 72 months plus $500 to first responders.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
One of the notes about the NBA, their new collective bargaining agreement, there's always the thought about the high school players entering the NBA draft. At least there's now the G League. They can go to that, but you still cannot come out of high school into the NBA. Their latest, I guess you could say, collective bargaining agreement remains the same. You have to be a year removed from high school to be able to enter the NBA. There is the G League, and or there's playing a year in college, and or going overseas. But that still remains in effect. There were thoughts that it might change with the newest collective bargaining agreement.
Like, I mean, I think that they should get rid of it, but now that you don't have, like, there's other options. Like, before it was you have to go to college to play because you couldn't get in the G League, and then the overseas thing wasn't really that available to them, or what was, it wasn't really that great. Now that they can go play in Australia or Japan or wherever for a year, or go to the G League and play there for a year, if you don't go to college, don't. I mean, save some, poor, crazy millionaire sap $2 million and not go to the, to college for a year.
Are you saying don't play at all?
No, I'm saying, like, if you don't want to go to college, don't go to college. Okay. But I'm saying if you want to go and be a college basketball player, go be a college basketball player.
Yeah. I wonder how many in the percentage, and I don't have this information, of those who are one and dones. We've seen some that have stayed, but what the percentage is of how many that could go straight to the NBA or could have been drafted into the NBA who go to college, how many of them stay in college after the first year? Like, we've seen some who have stayed before. Keontae George, an example, obviously, he's going straight to the NBA. Now, before you put it up, Garrett, Charlie Baker, NCAA president, mentioned the NCAA women's basketball tournament, which is in its final season of a $34 million deal with ESPN to broadcast all Division I championships other than football and men's basketball. He is saying that there's a chance it could be worth up to $112 million in 2 years, which is something that's interesting, because then I have this note. So LSU just had an incredible year. Kim Mulkey makes probably the second most money. Gino Auriemma, and I don't have the figures. Muffet McGraw used to be a part of this conversation. Tara at Stanford, but she earns $2.5 million. They generate, this is LSU women's basketball, which is across the board elsewhere, generate less than $1 million in revenue. Now, they had great attendance. At Baylor, they had great attendance. The business of LSU women's basketball was the top of the top. The deficit was nearly $7 million in 2022. That's not this year, but last year. The NCAA, you've talked about Shannon here, is the only business that a CEO gets 2 times the total revenue. However, athletes only get about 9% of the total labor. Now, what he was saying here is not that Kim Mulkey's overpaid, but that they lose dollars. We knew that at Baylor, women's basketball at Baylor was losing many times over $6 million or around $6 million a year. This new TV deal might, I don't know if it means they're going to make revenue or be revenue in the plus, but that this new deal might really help a sport that otherwise is known as a non-revenue sport.
I think he's also very much saying that it's ridiculous that for a sport that operates money, Kim Mulkey's probably making as much as she does, and Angel Reese is making scratch.
Right.
I think that's what he's saying as much as anything. That's a pro-athlete tweet. That's a pro you're operating a $7 million loss, but Kim Mulkey's making like 2.5, 3, and the athletes are getting probably very little of that.
Well, like you said, about 9% of it.
9% of that. So I don't know. That's how I read it, Paul.
That's how I read it. And look, there's a lot of things that can happen to fix the non-revenue sports. The biggest thing is that people have to show interest in them, going, watching, engaging with them. But I know that dollars spread only so thin, and like you can't sometimes things are going to work and sometimes things are going to not, or people, things come and go. I could move to England right now, and I know they had a team in the World Baseball Classic, and I could say, you know what, I'm going to make baseball work here. And they're like, you know what, we like football, soccer, that's what we like. We like when the NFL comes and plays a couple games a year. We're kind of into that. We have our own thing, but, please go back to America and stop telling me to like baseball. It's kind of the same way with non-revenue sports, and that's just not women's basketball and everything else. It's like we like football, we like men's basketball, we like a couple things in this country, and we're probably more diverse in our sports taste than most, but eventually the dollar just spreads a little too thin. I hope for women's basketball they get a better TV deal and get more people interested in going. Women have to go more, that's for sure. And if that starts happening, then that's great news.
I also think Charlie Baker's throwing out a sales pitch and speaking into existence that the women's tournament should draw that much money.
Strike while it's hot.
Yeah, and it's as hot as it's been. And to follow up on sort of my comments earlier just about the game itself and, what we saw and all of that, I do think it's a shame that by the end of it, so much of the talk was about, the interaction at the end, or it was about the officiating, and very little of it was about the actual game itself, which LSU pretty much controlled the entire time, and never really felt all that in doubt, especially, when you had some foul trouble on both sides. They still were able to have others step up, and Iowa not as much. But I do think that, to follow up on what I was saying about Mulkey and like how she's basically got just free reign and unlimited potential, you've got this star in Angel Reese. You've got the number one recruiting class, and really what I was speaking to as far as like the size of LSU and the fan base and the SEC and all that, it does feel like there's sort of a flashpoint, right, where if you are going to try and take women's basketball to another level, I don't think that you get that reaction if she's coaching Baylor yesterday. I think that she definitely didn't tap out what she could do or what she could win. But I think, like, in order to take women's basketball to another level, and maybe you guys totally disagree on this, I do think that maybe the move to LSU is what does that ultimately. I think that's a brand that gets more attention. I think if Baylor wins that game yesterday, everybody's just like ho-hum and goes on about their business. Kim Mulkey's great. She did it again. That's number 4. But the fact that she did it, and there was this, like, very, like, I mean, in some ways, very racially charged. It became the talk on social media. And then there was just the sides that was just the regular old sports fans that were talking trash. And that all got very ugly, but it was trending everywhere that you looked. And Angel Reese was trending, whether it's for a fight or the argument or the point at the ring, or because of just what she did throughout the tournament, throughout the year. You had all the talk about you had just all this talk, whether it was good or bad, it was talk. And I think that where she is now, she can kind of take this thing, or it's very timely to be where she is, where they can kind of take it to a level that I don't think if it stays status quo, we're talking about it reaching this next level.
It's their first ever national title. They've had they've had really good teams in the past. Women's basketball's biggest problem was 4 teams every year are going to win the national title.
Yeah.
And maybe 6. And now you have a new group of others, and she's at a big school.
It's a huge brand.
Yeah, it's a huge
LSU.
following. It's the entire state. This isn't like some small private school in Texas that's like the 4th or 5th wheel, depending on what you're looking at. I do think, the brand, the money behind them, the support is going to be, second to none. Like I said earlier, she could do absolutely no wrong there. And then you have like the tiff that turns into the unfortunately the biggest talking point, but it turns into probably the game being talked about far more than it was going to be talked about if it had just gone, 81-75 and that's the final and there was no dust up. You don't want the dust up in every single game, obviously, but I just think that you're at a kind of a flashpoint, like I said, where maybe the right coach at the right place with the right star at the right time in the right environment. Maybe Charlie Baker's onto something. Maybe this is a turning point for the sport. Then again, maybe it's not. I don't know.
I think also that what South Carolina was coming back from the national title, they were unbeaten until they were beaten by Iowa. You have this star in Caitlin Clark who shoots the ball maybe as well as anyone we've ever seen, who's played women's basketball at the collegiate level. So a lot of that. And it was a weekend that they ought to take advantage of if they possibly can. And there's some that still don't even know it was played. And yet
right.
There's also people that don't know the World Cup is going on.
You're right. But, yeah, Caitlin Clark and then South Carolina and Dawn Staley kind of being, her having comments in the post game that, we're not thugs and all that. Like, I know some of the stuff from this weekend definitely probably rubbed some people the wrong way. Just kind of like, this is getting just too much trash talk or, too much pettiness or whatever. But just overall, I mean, as far as what the world goes for, impressions and hits and things like that, I think that they probably had as successful of a weekend as you could possibly have. Now,
polarizing.
Yeah, polarizing is definitely the proper word to use.
All right, one more thing is we come back and discuss San Diego State at 4:20. We'll discuss UConn with writers who cover them. And so there we are with that. And we are hitting the week after college basketball ends, because it's going to be over tonight around 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock Central Time, and then everyone moves on to the next level. It's kind of that calendar that flips. And next thing you know, we're not going to be far from when football starts, no matter what level we are discussing. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Men, 1 out of every 3 men as they go older, some can experience a loss of testosterone in their system. There's a way to rejuvenate that. But the things that happen, some of the, I guess you could say, symptoms are you don't sleep as well. Your energy's not the same. Your sex drive is not nearly the same, or it just isn't quite right. Testosterone can lead to that. Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com. Contact them on the website, email and or phone number. Tell them I sent you. They will then set you up with blood work. Get your lab results. He gets them. You go get the blood work. They take care of that. They'll set up, and then you just go drop by and get your blood done. He will get the results, and then if your testosterone level's too low, he can put you in a program so that your testosterone level can be just like that. And you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be with PettyClinicLowT.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Back here on 365 Sports. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak, waiting a guest here. I think we're trying to figure out exactly what the setup is. But welcome back in. Day after.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
Paul's looking for a number he thought he had. He didn't have it, so we're trying to wait on our guest to get him on the line. Sorry about that. Got the baseball note real quick, Garrett, on the baseball pace of play. Average time last year, 3 hours and 8 minutes. Average time so far, and again, it's just been less than a week, 2 hours and 41 minutes. Then, remember, we brought up the stolen base? 26 stolen base attempts through 35 overall games last year, 34 games, 56 now. Not just twice as much, but a little over twice as much attempts of stolen bases. So the new rules, at least how they've affected the first few days of the Major League Baseball season. Bryce Miller, San Diego Union-Tribune, joins us. San Diego State tonight against UConn. Bryce, what's it been like, the reaction in San Diego these last few days, and especially today with the championship game?
Well, I got to be honest, I'm not sure because I'm on the ground in Houston with the team, but just kind of scrolling through videos and what you hear from people back in San Diego, I mean, it's been huge. I mean, this is a city that, despite being, the 8th largest city in the country, they haven't had that moment in a major sporting event where they've gotten over the top. The Padres went to the World Series in '84 and '98. The Chargers made a Super Bowl, but they haven't been able to get over the top and claim a major championship. So you're 40 minutes away. There's a chance. Obviously, UConn's a huge favorite, but the reaction in San Diego, everyone's waiting to find out what that might sound like, what that might look like, because it's never happened before. So it's something they've waited a long time for in that city.
Bryce, what do you expect the game plan to be tonight for San Diego State to stave off those huge UConn runs that they go on?
Yeah, I mean, UConn's just been devastating in this tournament. Haven't had a close game yet. Haven't played a single-digit game, averaging more than 20 points per win. But, Brian Dutcher, San Diego State's coach, has said over and over and over during this, it's about them. It's not about their opponent. If they go, if we are the best San Diego State team we can be against Alabama, we'll win that game. And they did. If we're the best San Diego State team we can be against Creighton, one of the most offensively polished teams in the country, will win. And they did. They don't really do things dictated on what you're about. They control pace and they control physicality, and it slows the game down. Their first 3 wins in this tournament were the lowest offensive outputs for those teams all season long. So they kind of put a stranglehold on the paint. They lock you up on the perimeter. They make every shot tough. They force you off your spot. They make you uncomfortable. And at the end of games, we even saw with Florida Atlantic, which was in control the other night, they gave up a lot of offensive rebounds late because there wasn't much gas left in the tank, and that can be a difference maker late. UConn can win this big, but it'll be interesting to look up the clock with 6 minutes left and see what it looks like.
Bryce, what was that the other night like? The Final Four victory over Florida Atlantic, the buzzer beater from Butler. Having followed this team throughout their journey to get to that moment, and know there's still one more tonight, but just what was that like to take in?
Well, it was, it might not have been a thing of beauty for those to watch on TV, these lower scoring games, and you've got to appreciate defense when you watch a San Diego State game, because they're elite. They're probably the best defensive team in the country. They legitimately play 9 deep. They're balanced. They're really tough to guard, not because they're good offensively, but because their leading scorer is the only guy in double figures, Matt Bradley, and he scores about 12 and a half a game. So I think their first 3 or 4 games in this tournament, they had 3 or 4 different leading scorers. So offensively, they're tricky to guard because you can't single out one guy or 2 guys, but really it's about what they do defensively. But in that moment when Butler hit that shot, it was, not very far in front of us. Just seeing that, a moment so significant in the NCAA tournament, and the noise in that building was something I haven't experienced in about 35 years of doing this.
Yeah, that explosion, that just is amazing. What did you at any time think that he might not get the shot off, that the clock was running down?
Yeah, I did. I didn't see until the replays how close he got to stepping out. He just, incredibly close to stepping out. But when he took that last dribble and kind of came, closer to the wing from the baseline, you wondered if he was aware of that clock. But they had a similar situation at New Mexico earlier this year, and Brian Dutcher had called a play for Butler to get to the basket, and he pulled up from 3 after taking 6 dribbles across 6 seconds. Used basically what he did the other night, taking all that clock. So I think his clock awareness is better than maybe people might think when they watch that play. But, that extra dribble made me think, is he going to get this off? But he did, and obviously, what happened.
Steve Fisher's influence on the program obviously felt. He was there. What was it about him? And he built programs everywhere, but allowed this team to be in the mainstream and now get to this point, even though he has since retired.
Yeah, he was everything. He was the foundation when there wasn't one. When he came to San Diego State, it was one of the worst, and this is not hyperbole, one of the worst programs in the country. It's kind of legendary. He'd walk around campus trying to hand out free tickets just to get kids to come to games. But once he built the defensive DNA of what this program is and continues to be under Brian Dutcher, you see a lot of guys like at San Diego State who gave up individual kind of spotlights at other places. Matt Bradley was a star at Cal, and he came here. Darian Trammell scored 39 in his last game at Seattle. He had the ball in his hands all the time for a winning team. He came here. Micah Parrish was at Oakland University in Michigan. He averaged about 35 minutes a game, and he came here to play less. Jaden Ledee, a Houston guy, as you guys know, he was at Ohio State and TCU, didn't find the right fit until he got to San Diego. So part of that Steve Fisher foundation is that he convinced players to give up something individually for the potential for a bigger payoff as a team collectively. And that's really, even more so this team, that's what San Diego State has become, and it starts with Steve Fisher.
Bryce Miller, San Diego Union Tribune. It's the night of the championship. The 2 coaches come from coaching families. I think that probably happens a lot more. Scott Drew here at Baylor came from a coaching family. His brother coaches, his dad, obviously, Homer. Your thoughts about that, the lineage of those 2?
Yeah, over the years, I've talked to Brian Dutcher. I grew up in the Midwest, and his dad, Jim Dutcher, was, a classic Midwestern Big Ten coach at Michigan and or Minnesota, and then obviously, Brian ended up at Michigan with Steve Fisher when they won the 1989 NCAA title. And you don't really have to backtrack. You just have to say the name Hurley, and you understand the significance of that with Bobby and their father, and all the way through that. I think you got coaching lifers. It was funny at the press conference yesterday with Brian Dutcher. Somebody, and he didn't mean this to be funny. He thinks out loud, and somebody asked, why did you stay this assistant for so long under Steve Fisher? Why were you okay being the coach and waiting for that position and not going somewhere else? I think he's the second oldest coach to make his first Final Four, and he's in his 60s. And he said, "Well, I didn't really want to be an insurance salesman." And you're like, "Yeah, these guys are coaching lifers. They didn't want to do anything else." And that's a threat in this game as well.
Bryce, I'd be remiss if not asking of just how much does this game feel like not only a monumental moment for the athletic department just in terms of winning a national title, but what the repercussions could be, a la expansion, exposure, all of those different things?
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what happens tonight, I think you'll see an impact on San Diego State in terms of not just recruiting, but what they've been masters of working the transfer portal. They were kind of ahead of the curve there. That 30-2 team in the 2020 tournament that got knocked out by COVID, three of their top players were all transfers that season, Malachi Flynn and Yanni Wetzel and KJ Fagan. So they know how to reassemble the pieces and do some of that, but the exposure will be enormous for them. And really what'll be interesting to see, there's talk that San Diego State is on the edge of an invitation to the Pac-12, and is this the kind of thing that nudges Pac-12 decision makers to really up the ante and say, this team gives us something in the Southern California market after USC and UCLA left, but also they're coming off a title game appearance. No team in the Mountain West has ever gotten to the Elite Eight, let alone into the title game. So for a lot of reasons, they're trailblazers in this run, regardless of what happens against UConn tonight. And I think you'll see some impact over the next few years related to that.
Bryce, thank you very much for your time. Good luck. Should be a hell of a game. Aztecs, they've been tough, man. They're almost like mirror images of each other in a way with UConn. Bryce Miller, San Diego Union Tribune, with us on tonight's championship game. Down in Houston at NRG, it will be a monstrous crowd there with the men's basketball championship. We're going to hear from a UConn writer at today. David Borges will join us from the Connecticut Post at 4:30. Chip Patterson, who wrote a huge, thorough Final Four type preview before the weekend began with CBS Sports, will join us today at 5. Coming up next, the Hall of Famer, six-time major champion Lee Trevino, his thoughts about Augusta National. He used to not like it at all in many ways, the course, but also just how he felt. Said it was one of the biggest regrets ever that he kind of just didn't play at Augusta National much after that. He's won 6 majors, but never did win. His best finish was 10th at Augusta National. He's next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Ted Teague, the general manager, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. And Alan Samuels, right now, with the month of April beginning, interest rates rising, you can take advantage of 0% interest for 72 months on select models. They want new or pre-owned vehicles. They will give you more money for them than you think. They're looking for them. They have 300 new cars, trucks, and SUVs on the lot, but they're looking for pre-owned vehicles. Good, clean, pre-owned vehicles, putting top dollar in your trade, highly motivated to make that deal happen. So that might be something that interests you. The weather, of course, hot as heck today, which is great. Some top-down fun, the new 2023 Jeep Wrangler or Gladiator. Take advantage of the Dodge Last Call event. Get yourself high-performance 2023 Dodge Charger or Challengers before they're gone. And Ram Truck Month, 10% off on select models. And, of course, as the tournament winds down tonight with the NCAA Championship, the madness is going on right now at Alan Samuels in a good way. Cars and trucks and SUVs, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This golf segment on 365 Sports is brought to you by Bear Ridge Golf Club, a premium semi-private 18-hole golf course in South Waco, just off Highway 84 in Woodway, with tee times and memberships available.
Paul Catalina will work on getting the Hall of Famer Lee Trevino on the show. We had Lee about a month and a half ago or so on the LIV and PGA Tour and a lot of that was going on. The Masters Week, we'll have a contest for you. We'll put the link up before the end of today's show on the chat room, and also we'll have it up on Twitter, and we'll pound that out there for you to be able to get to be a part of that. Just if anything, for your ego to win it, there's kind of a salary cap set up. We'll have that for you here momentarily. Now, the Field68.com does a great job in covering college basketball. Maybe as good a podcast as you're going to find. We've had their guest on, but that's not the only reason. A little bit after the time we have with Lee Trevino, at some point today, Rodney Terry responding to the question about the Texas roster and how it was built that, to me, kind of made me go back and listen to it a second time. But we're now joined by the Hall of Famer in Lee Trevino, 6-time major champion on 365 Sports. Lee, thanks for your time. How's the babysitting going?
Listen, I just got home from the babysitting. They changed the day on me. Usually it's Tuesday. I was relaxing, and somebody said, "No, you got to go to days on Monday, so you're off Tuesday." I said, "Well, that's good because the course is closed, and then tomorrow I can put a good day in." I got some new clubs, some new putter. I'm working on some wedges. I'm 150 years old. My ball's going so short, I couldn't get a ticket in the school zone with the speed I got ready. Pitiful.
God.
It's really pitiful, really pitiful.
So was your time at Augusta when you played there, I know you had a 10th place finish, and I always remember there were a couple of things. One, you hit kind of a cut. You hit the ball left to right, and it wasn't set up for that way. Was that your biggest problem? And I also think you didn't maybe like the way sometimes you might have been treated.
Well, I wasn't treated bad personally. My whole problem with Augusta was the dictator, the gentleman that ran it. He and I got into it the second year I went there over the ticket situation, and I couldn't get enough tickets for the family and whatever. So we kind of got on the wrong foot. And you got to understand, I'm a farm boy. I don't take a whole lot of whatever from anybody, and so. We didn't see eye to eye. As far as the cut is concerned, no. Hell, I and as far as the golf course is concerned, no. I learned to play in a cow pasture over there off Bodecker. So don't tell me it was the golf course. People make all that stuff up. I heard from J.C. Snead today, and he got in an argument with a guy on a tee the other day, and he said that the reason I didn't like Augusta because I went there with my grandson and they wouldn't let me play. Grandson? Are you crazy? No such animal. And that's what happened. We got off on the wrong foot. It was the dumbest thing I've ever done because I could have won that golf tournament. I led twice after 36 holes, and it didn't make any difference about the fate. I didn't like it. But that's okay. All the holes went left just about, and all the greens slanted to the right with the fade, so the ball would run off the green a little bit, when I'd hit it in there. But it's a beautiful tournament. It's the best one there. I've been watching all the hoopla today already. Yeah.
What about playing in that particular major? Is there more tension in that one? Is it the same for all of them, or is it just there a mystique about the golf course?
Well, it's all about the history of it. It's all about Mr. Jones, which I think I did not see him. I have seen him hit some balls on film. I did not see Mr. Jones in person. I did meet him once, actually on the 14th tee after the par 5 there. And so just vaguely I met him. He was in a golf cart. He couldn't walk. His back was so bad. But what makes it so dramatic, I think, it started. He started building that course in about 1930. It finished it in 32. Had the first tournament in 34. Horton Smith won the first tournament and the third tournament. He won in 34, 36. Stairsman won the second one in 35. You remember he holed the 2-wood on 15 for a 2, a double eagle, and ended up winning the golf tournament. But no, I can't say that the fade wasn't the right thing there because Jimmy DeMeritt won the thing 2 or 3 times. Mr. DeMeritt from Houston, and hell, he cut it more than I did. Yeah, so it had nothing to do with that. Not at all. I didn't feel comfortable there simply because of the words that the gentleman and I had, and I don't go too far with that simply because he passed away, and there's no rebuttal. He can't say anything, so I just leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously you won 6 majors. 1971, you had that incredible stretch. You won the Open. Yeah. You won the Canadian Open. You won the Open Championship. Was that your best ever year?
Yeah, 1971 was the best one. As a matter of fact, we did a whole rundown on that thing because the prize money was like $100,000 a tournament. You'd win about $18,000 when you won a tournament. And then Jordan Spieth won 6 or 7 tournaments there one year. And so we put it together with he and I, and what I would have won if I'd have been playing for his money. And I think we were about $40,000 apart, and he would have beaten me by $40,000, and it was over $11 million. Yeah, man, I could have retired young.
Now, who do you think, if you named, you got Jack, you have Trevino, Arnie, Gary Player, obviously then you have Tiger Woods. Is there anyone else that belongs in that group as far as Byron Nelson or whoever else, Bobby Jones, that built the game of golf?
Well, Mr. Nelson was a tremendous player, and he got, I guess, his claim to fame simply because he won 18 tournaments one year and 11 in a row. But he only won 5 majors. Yeah, and Mr. Hogan, I think, won 9. And Mr. Jones won 13, Nicholas 18. Tom Watson, you got to put him in there. Tom Watson won 8 or 9 majors also, a hell of a player. But no, that group that we had in that era, if you really look back at it, you take about 6 guys, and they ended up winning all the majors all those years for the whole decade. It was the same guys all the time, you know, and I don't know why. Well, I guess, you know, they had maybe talent. I don't know how you any other way you can put it. But tremendous amount of players. Also, you have to understand that we worked harder, I think, than most guys did. The conditions were a little bit different. We didn't play for as much money, so we had to have almost a second job. So we had to play a lot of golf. We had to play a lot of tournaments. We didn't skip tournaments. We played all of them. And the reason for it, I mean, I won 7 tournaments, I think, in 1971 with the 3 majors included in that. And I think I was leading money winner, and I think I won $173,000. That's all I won. Because at the time it was only, I mean, I won 2 British Opens and lost money.
Oh, because of the travel and stuff, yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, uh-huh.
Lee Trevino, 6-time major champion, Hall of Famer, with us on 365 Sports, the week of the Masters.
Lee, so when you see a golfer that doesn't play and he's healthy and he decides I'm going to skip 5 tournaments in a row, does that still even kind of blow your mind?
Well, he wouldn't be able to make it farming because, man, when it's time to harvest, you got to do it. You understand what I'm saying? I was led to believe when that tomato's turning red, you better pick it and eat it or it's going to spoil. And in my opinion, it's the same thing. If you lay off playing competitive golf for 5 weeks, you lose your edge. And no question about it. You know, it's that, I'm getting some of the rust off. Well, that rust should have never been on there. You should have been gargling with WD-40 or something. But this is what you do. Today, they're playing for so much money, and God bless them. They're entitled to it. I think it's time for them to make the money that the other athletes make in other sports. And they don't have to work as hard now. They just have to be awfully good. And I don't think there's nobody better right now than Scotty Scheffler. That Highland Park boy can roll it, boy. He can play. Yeah.
You know, he seems to be so calm. And I know some can be more demonstrative, but he seems to always be in control of himself. Not to mention he's just a very talented golfer.
Well, he's got Randy Smith there that trained him. I remember when he was coming out to Royal Oaks and he was 7 or 8 years old. He wanted to putt for quarters, and I didn't want to putt with him because I didn't want him to grow up and say he beat me putting. But this is what he wanted. I mean, he's had a dream, and he's fulfilling it. I remember when he played junior tournaments, he always wore long pants simply because he said that pros don't wear shorts, and this is what he did. I love the way that he plays. He's a 6'4" guy. He plays. He's more of a pendulum guy because he stands closer to the ball because he's so much taller. So he slides that right foot back, and that's a good thing. Norman did that. Billy Casper did that. And what I mean by a good thing is he never goes over the top. It's simply because when he slides the right foot back, the hands come closer into the hip. So he comes from the inside. And that's why he's so accurate with the irons, especially the short irons. I really like his action. The only way that he would ever go wrong is if he quits. It's the only way because it's solid. It's solid. Randy Smith has done a hell of a job with it. Yeah.
Lee, the live guys have been playing 54 holes. It's a different kind of thing that they're doing, and they're going to step in here and play in these majors. Do you think that will hurt them in the long run? I mean, these guys are, big-time golfers, but still, I mean, you kind of get used to one thing, and then all of a sudden you're now stepping onto Augusta National and have to play a whole nother round of golf that you haven't done in a couple years.
No, it doesn't make any difference. You got to look at it. It's like track. It doesn't make any difference where you run. As long as you run and your time's good, so you can compete with anybody. I don't think it's going to hurt them one little bit. I think the pressure is actually on the tour guys, simply because they certainly don't want one of the guys from Live to win Augusta. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Saudis didn't put up a big bonus if somebody did win. And I'll tell you something: they better be careful with Brooks Koepka, because Brooks is healthy.
Yep.
He hasn't been healthy in 3 years, and I was watching his interview yesterday, and he said, this is fun. And he won 2 of those in the last 3 tournaments. He's won 2 of them, so he's playing extremely well. He will be really dangerous at Augusta. Golf is a gentleman's game, and they will find a way to socialize with each other and play. And it'll be just fine. Golf is a hell of a game. Great game. Yeah. And you know what? This is not a fist fight. It's not a contact sport. It's a number sport. So, it doesn't make a difference where you play everything. Now, I did see one thing, that the Live doesn't play the best courses. So it might be a little bit of an advantage for the Live guy, because he's had to scrape it around a little bit. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to get on a pool table. It's much easier for him. Yeah.
Lee, last year, Tiger made the cut, and then, of course, it didn't finish well, but he hadn't played in almost 2 years prior to that, and he made the cut. That was a big story. He's played at Riviera. He's not going to play much. What are your expectations of him this weekend in Augusta?
Well, he'll do the same thing. He'll play extremely well on the first 2. But fatigue has got to set in on him. He's 47 years old, and his right leg is I'm sure it's not 100%. I have no clue. Circulation, I think, is the whole problem with it, and he's got a team that works with him after he finishes. But that is a very difficult golf course to walk. It's on the side of a hill, and it's never level. You don't walk level ever. And I think he'll make the cut. But I think he'll probably end up doing the same thing that he did last year. He'll get a little tired, and that's it. When you haven't played in 7 weeks, you certainly haven't been walking all 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the days you go out there and jump in a golf cart, you know what I'm saying, and play a quick 9. It's not the same thing as walking. And if you're playing in Florida, it's flat. And so you're not walking up hills, side hills, down hills. That's a different strain on the ligaments and the muscles. Yeah.
And there's never a flat lie, is there?
No, it's a beautiful lie, because the golf course is in magnificent condition. But it's very seldom you're going to have a flat lie on the driving range. Yeah, that's the only. Yeah, they should put humps and bumps all over the tee on the driving range so you can practice off of it.
What was your first impression? I know the first time I was able to go, and it's awe-inspiring, and TV doesn't do it justice, no matter how much the cameras have gotten better and all the way that flat screens are better. Yeah. Can you try to describe the first time you walked that course or went to a practice round or whatever it was, and how gorgeous it was?
Yeah, when I walked on it the first time, I knew that I was at a disadvantage because there was no rough. And I said, man, I'm dead here. I did, because I hit the ball straight. I need a foot rough so I can take care of the big boys. You understand what I'm saying? That was number one when I walked on it. The other thing I looked at, too, is I said, oh, my God, you can land a 747 in these fairways. Now, they've tightened it up since I played there. They put some more trees in. But it was wide open, and there was no rough. Now, there's a reason for that. And I'll explain it to you what the reason is. Mr. Jones, when he built that golf course, wanted the best player to win the tournament. He didn't want luck to be involved. When you play a golf course that's narrow fairways, tall rough, and a guy hits the ball over in the gallery, he's got a perfect lie, and I missed the fairway by 2 yards, and it's unplayable. See, Mr. Jones thought that was unfair. So what he did, he says, I want a golf course with no rough. I don't want any tall grass anywhere. I want the best chipper to win, the best driver to win, the best iron player to win, the best putter to win. He has to have that combination. There's not going to be any luck involved on a lie, and I had a bad lie, and I got this, and I got that. And that's what Mr. Jones wanted, and I think it's very unique. I think it's great.
You know, there's a reason Tiger probably hasn't won more majors. We know the number of wins, tied for the most with Sam Snead. We know the majors that 15, Nicklaus has the 18. But what was your thought about why they Tiger-proofed Augusta National? Because they didn't do that for anyone else that I remember. Do you think that may have cost him another Masters or a green jacket or two?
No, it could have. It could have. You never know. You know, you can speculate all you want, but you know, you still got to beat all the players. It doesn't make any difference who you're playing against. You still got to play them. And everybody talks about, well, that wasn't a strong field. It doesn't make any difference. What did I shoot? And you know, the weather has a lot to do with it. Now, they may have a picnic with this tournament this year because they're saying that it's going to rain Thursday and Friday. When they can't control the water to Augusta, it's not a very hard golf course. It's when they control the water to it. The USGA does that in the U.S. Open. If you can control the water to a golf course, you can make it as hard as you want to, because all you do is don't water the greens, make them hard as a brick, and that's it. You're dead. So also when the fairways are really hard, and if you fade the ball a little bit, the ball will keep running and go in the trees or go in the pine needles. If you hook it, same thing on the other side. So it's supposed to rain Thursday, supposed to rain Friday, and if the wind doesn't blow, it's going to be soft Saturday and Sunday. So if it does rain, look for a very low score. Yeah, it's like playing almost like throwing darts at the greens, right? Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that it's very difficult to get the greens fast, even though you're double cutting them, because I'm going to tell you something that you never thought of. That mower is heavy, and it has a roller in front of the blade. And when the roller goes over the grass, if it's soft, it'll push it down. And by the time the blade gets to that grass, it hasn't popped back up yet. So it's not going to be fast. Now, when that green is hard as a brick, and that roller goes over the grass, it doesn't push it down. So when the blade comes in, it scalps it. You never heard of that one, have you? No, I hadn't thought about that. I know that they have these like whatever's underneath the greens that allows them to soak some of that water out, but that's not enough to where when it rains to be able to affect it. No, that's sub-air. That's sub-air. Yeah, they got a sub-air, they call it. Yeah, they'll pull it out of there. But like I said, they cannot if they can't control the water, it'll probably be 16, 17, 18 under, maybe even 20. They got to be able to control it. The wind has a lot to do with it also because it's on the side of a mountain, this golf course, and the wind really swirls a lot. Now, they put 30 yards on 13. Not going to make any difference. They can make the hole easier. They made the hole easier because now they can't reach the trees down the fairway. You see what I'm saying? They didn't think of that. They spent $25 million for a piece of property, and they made the hole easier. That course only has 12 fairway bunkers. Let me see. Well, one of them's I've been fortunate again. I know one has got the one on the right hand side. Not one on two, not one on three. Yeah. No, two's got one on the right. Three's got one on the left. Oh, it's got one on the top right? That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, and it's got 12. You can count them. It's got 12 fairway bunkers. To me, one of the most underrated hard course holes, although it seemed like, I guess I'm wrong, was number 5. It got that big, huge, massive bunker on the left-hand side. Yeah, you can't get to the green out of it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you got to watch you don't hit that ball. You got to draw that ball out there and hit 3-wood, because if you hit it straight and hit it and push it a little bit, it'll go out of bounds. Yeah, Yeah, and that green looks like it's been out on a preschool yard for a long time, because it's humpy bumpy, baby.
Got elephants buried in it. Yeah. Have you
they
ever?
got a lot of ex-members buried under there or something. I don't know.
There's the. Or people, or people who disobeyed.
If you're gonna pick a spot,
I mean, that's back near gate number 8.
Kind of juice.
Yeah. Lee, have you ever? Yeah, go ahead.
No, it wouldn't be bad. Maybe a lot of ashes. A lot of ashes on that green.
Have you ever been invited to hit that opening ceremonial shot?
Oh no! You have to win the tournament. You have to be.
Oh, that's right.
A winner.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
No,
okay.
you have to be a winner. Yeah, They got Jack. They got this year. They got Jack Watson and Gary. I think. Yeah. 8:00. Hey, don't miss it. 8:00. I think it is Thursday morning.
All right. Hey, the shirts, you've ordered shirts. Is that correct? We want to always mention your website that people can get merchandise from. From
we get them the third week in April. I'm getting all the shorts and the shirts, and I got T-shirts and stuff now. But it's a big deal. The shirt, I tell you what, my son brought me 6 of them the other day, and they're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
Tell everybody the link to get on there.
Love you, my man.
What's the link name again for people to purchase your merchandise?
SuperMexGolf.com.
Supermex Golf. Lee Trevino, thank you, man. We appreciate you. Love you, too. Lee
Love
Trevino,
you, man. Love you.
6-time major champion. Went to go babysit today. It was not today, so he couldn't play golf anyway, so he'll be ready to lock it in and get on the golf course with the new clubs tomorrow. I love his personality. Always have.
He's the Charles Barkley of golf.
Might be.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I mean, yeah, he always has had that, He's just always one of those guys. I remember when I moved to Florida, he was playing on the senior tour. He was one of those guys you had to even still watch then. Now it's the Champions Tour, but
when it was he and Palmer initially, and then eventually others. Yeah, no, he was one of the reasons why it thrived, and where it is now. But Lee Trevino with us on 365 Sports, he's become someone we've been able to get on. When they had the Live deal, and even earlier this year, Craig, you and I were hosting a show, and he was on with us about the PGA Tour and also Live Golf. He is a phenomenal personality. We appreciate his time. When we come back, we have another guest to get to. He covers Connecticut. David Borges of the Connecticut Post. He is next on 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace in the southern part of Waco, just off of I-35. That's on the west side of 35, where you can get 2 things that matter to you. If you have any kind of pain in your muscles or your ligaments, if it's more than just pain, it's not soreness, but something worse, whether it is torn or pulled, and your doctor wants to know more about it, wants to get a better view of what is hurting you. In your shoulder, in your neck, in your back, it could be your leg, your quad, your knee, wherever it is. Ideal MRI can get a great picture of what hurts, what may be torn, or maybe even good news, it's not. And so your doctor can give you the right treatment to make sure you get to the next level and feel better again. Ideal MRI, $497 is all it costs. And you may go, $497 is a steal, considering the average MRI is $1,100. And it's not $497 once, but every single time, and they will help you filing your insurance as well, and so it could be less. $497, find out what hurts, and IdealMRI.com in Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitchie Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitchie Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitchie Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitchie Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
National championship tonight in Houston, NRG Stadium. UConn, they're back. And also San Diego State, who has had a great run. What a dramatic win for them against Florida Atlantic on Saturday in the semifinal. David Borges, the Connecticut Post, joins us on 365 Sports. David, when do you think UConn, they've been on this long stretch, and they were, a 4 seed or whatever it was. When did they actually, in your opinion, show they had this ability to make this run again?
Well, to be honest with you, they showed it back in November when they went out to the PK Invitational in Portland, which had a really good field, and they beat Oregon by about 25 in Portland. Then they beat Alabama, who ended up being the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. They beat them handily by 15, and they romped over Iowa State to win the title, and they won that game by about 18 points. They were 14-0. They had not lost a single game by less than double digits they won every game by more than double digits. So you saw that back in November and December, and then they hit a bad slide in January. But when they started picking up again about a month or so ago, you knew they still had it in them.
So do you think that they were able to get people to sleep on them because of that bad stretch? Because this looks like a team that is just an absolute juggernaut, and from the jump, like you said.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they got into Big East play, and the Big East is still a very, very, maybe the best conference. I mean, Big 12 certainly could take that claim as well, but it's a very physical conference. Teams are, physical games, tough, defensive-oriented games, a lot of them. So they got caught up in kind of the slog of the Big East and played it and lost some road games. It's always hard to win road games in any league, and certainly in the Big East. And they ended up losing 6 out of 8 at one point. It's hard to believe that when you see them now, right? But I think it was just the fact that they were in the Big East and teams knew them well. And once they got out of league play, and with different officiating, different teams that didn't know them quite as well, less physical play, they've really started to dominate again.
Dave, what did you think? Dave, what did you think of the way the Miami game went down?
Well, I mean, I thought Miami would give them a challenge, and in a sense they did. I mean, they've been their closest opponent so far. They only lost by 13. Yeah, the thing is, UConn has just so many weapons, and they're big men. If you try to stop their big men, Adama Sanogo and Donovan Kling, the best 1-2 center punch in the country. UConn's got guards that can kill you from three. They've got slashers like Andre Jackson Jr. So, the depth really just wore Miami out the other night, and that's really been wearing a lot of teams out all season.
Dave, it's one of those things that there are. College football has their country club, Blue Bloods. College basketball has theirs. I've thought of UConn, no question, with the run they've had, with what they've had, 4 national titles and what they're doing. As a Blue Blood, have you gotten kind of a kick out of the question that some people ask whether they are or not?
Well, I kind of understand it because, A, they're new blood, so to speak. I mean, they've had all their success in the last 25 years, which I suppose is a long time, but it's not like, UCLA, Kentucky, Kansas. And I think the other two things are, there's a certain, I think people, first of all, they've had some real down years. Most particularly the last 10 years, they were really down. And some of the other Blue Bloods maybe don't get to, have really struggled that much for a long period of time. And then there's just the fact that I think there's a perception that a couple of their titles were kind of fluky in that they got good draws, a lot of higher ranked teams lost. They got great performances by Kemba Walker one year and Shabazz Napier the other. I disagree with that premise, but I think that's kind of maybe a little bit of a narrative which is why some people don't consider them a blue blood.
So the Sanogo story, can you go through, I don't know this, is the recruitment of him and kind of how he became a part of UConn? How did that, do you remember that story?
Oh, yeah. He was just about signed, sealed, and delivered to play at Seton Hall. He didn't grow up in New Jersey, but he lives in New Jersey. So they were essentially the hometown school. And his high school coach said he basically was ready to go there. And UConn kind of swooped in at the last minute. And he took their, he just fell in love with UConn, love at first sight. So figured it was a better chance, in his words, better chance for him to get to the NBA through UConn. They put more guys into the league. And UConn kind of swiped him right under Seton Hall's nose, and it certainly worked out for UConn.
Yeah, he's got, well, I guess it's more now, but he came into the game with 17 threes. Now he's bombing them. Did he just pick that up here in the last 3 weeks?
No, he's been doing it all year. His first 2 years at UConn, he took exactly one 3-point shot, but he knows that a 6'9" center is not going to cut it in the NBA, unfortunately. And you got to expand your range a little bit and show you can step out, hit threes, hit even the mid-range jumper. So he worked on that all summer, and he's been doing that all season. And he shoots about 35% from three, which is certainly respectable. And he doesn't have great form. He doesn't look like Dirk Nowitzki or anything out there, but he hits them at a pretty good rate. So no, but he really has been doing this all season long.
Dave, what are your thoughts on the Aztecs and the challenge in front of the Huskies later on tonight?
Well, I mentioned obviously when UConn struggled in January, they got into the slog of physical Big East teams, and San Diego State is kind of like that. They're physical, defensive-oriented teams. So, in theory, they could give UConn a battle, no question about it. Maybe their toughest challenge yet. I think they can keep it close. I think they can win tonight, but it's hard to pick against UConn given their the run they're on and their depth. And you got you shut 2 or 3 guys down. There's 2 or 3 guys coming off the bench that can kill you as well. So, but I do think I like San Diego State. I like their toughness, their defensive orientation, and they'll give UConn a good challenge.
So Dan Hurley's the coach. We know the Hurley family. His dad coached. We know Bobby's history with what he did as a player, but also now as a coach. Give us an idea of who Dan Hurley might be as far as what you've gotten to know about him.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I'm not sure Dan Hurley knows who he is. Excuse me. He's a complex guy, complicated, just very, dedicated to his craft. I mean, just works so hard, lives and dies his job, college basketball. Doesn't have, he's the kind of guy doesn't have a lot of close friends, but he loves his family, very close to his family, and loves his job, loves his players. He can get tough on referees. He's overdone that in the past. He can be a little thin-skinned at times, but he's just done a tremendous job as a coach this year, and he's kind of stepping out of the shadows of his older brother, as well as his Hall of Fame father.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Enjoy NRG Houston and the championship. That's Connecticut Post columnist, again, David Borges with us on UConn and San Diego State. The fact that they met earlier this year, that's one thing. Sometimes that helps. I always thought that because Baylor and Gonzaga did not play in December, the year that Baylor won the national title with COVID, because the game was canceled right before the very close, like within an hour, that might have been the best thing for Baylor. Because it just kind of not only led to Gonzaga remained unbeaten, and you had this collision course, and Gonzaga was the main focus most of the year, and who knows what would have happened had they played no matter who had won that game. So UConn, 4 national titles in 99, 04, 2011, and also 2014. They have run through everybody. They've won by 24. They've won by 15. 21, 28. That's just to get into the regional, and then, of course, took care of their business this past weekend, too.
Yeah, I mean, I really think there's a lot of, exciting build-up to this game. I don't know about you guys. I just feel like let's just see them play and see what happens. But, I mean, in terms of storylines and things like that, we've already seen them tangle. UConn's rolling through people. FAU's a great story, but this is going to be an interesting game that I think probably most people believe UConn will win. How they go about doing that, I guess is up to difference of opinion. Whether it's an easy coast to a win ultimately, or they have to fight scratch and claw and it comes all the way down to the wire and maybe a bucket, sends somebody to immortality. But yeah, I mean, when you were thinking about, I'll be curious to see the women's TV ratings. Those still aren't out yet, I don't believe, and I'll be very curious to see the men's TV ratings. And I'm not one of those that I feel like it makes a definitive statement if this is the lowest watched or whatever, but that was a lot of the talking point last week, and you can see how that could probably come to fruition. There's no buzz about this game, really. I mean, maybe I'm just missing out on it because I'm not online and I'm not searching, out the hashtag and all of that, but it does feel like, there's just sort of a very slight buzz for the national championship. So hopefully some good basketball will kind of spice that up a bit. Yeah,
Connecticut, I mean, you have one lull. And again, it's kind of showing that college basketball's changing. You mentioned the COVID year, transfer portal, all of those things have changed it. But, I think you're going to see, Tim Brando said it, more and more seeds that are going to be 4s and 5s are going to be in this thing. The mid-majors are coming, I hope it's a good game. I am concerned. Like Craig is, that Connecticut could the way that they go on runs, and they're mean about it too. Like I said earlier, they kept letting Miami think oh, hey, we've got something going here.
Yeah,
and then they
just pull the rug up.
I
saw a tweet to Evan Miyakawa, who has that kill shot ratio where I think it means a 10-point run or better. UConn does a lot of 8 and 9-point runs. They don't maybe do the 10-0 run, but they then they score 17 of 19 in between an 8-0 and 9-0 run.
So the women's ratings just came out. What was the big number from the week? It was 5.5 million for, what was that, Iowa and South Carolina? It was somewhere in that ballpark. What do y'all think the LSU Iowa was?
I'm going to say that South Carolina brings in a lot of eyeballs, but Caitlin Clark winning and playing LSU with that kind of a new personality of a team, I'm going to say 6.5 million.
So 5.5 million for Paul for Iowa, South Carolina. What do you think LSU versus Iowa was?
I'm going to say 7.
9.9 million viewers.
That's awesome
for LSU and Iowa, up over 100% from the year prior, peaked at 12.6 million. Most viewed college event ever on ESPN Plus. Most viewed NCAA women's basketball game ever on record. So, as I was saying earlier, and you know, there's a lot of things that went into it. I think you had the star power of Caitlin Clark. Certainly a lot of talk about her. You had the star power of Angel Reese on the other side. You had the star power of Kim Mulkey. And I think you had, you know, a large, rabid brand in LSU and a large brand in Iowa, Big Ten versus SEC, right? And just a lot of factors. But, yeah, you had interesting, you know, in Iowa, obviously, too. I mean, can't discount the fact that people watched, 5+ million people watched them beat big, bad South Carolina, right? That was the unbeatable or was the team that was supposed to win it all. So a lot of things fell correctly. And, yeah, that's a massive number and a huge win for college basketball, for women's basketball in particular, because that's, like I said, 103% year over year, 12.6 it tapped out at, but 9.9 record-breaking across the board. And there is your, let's talk about earlier, there's your flashpoint, right, for women's basketball. If they're ever going to take advantage of it, this is your moment. Don't get it twisted. And that's why I think some of the ugliness that surrounded the game that maybe helps promote it even further, maybe it actually makes it better and gets more people interested, as opposed to pushes them away. Although I could see how some people are kind of like not caught up in the post-game stuff as much, or they don't like that part of it as much. Regardless, here's your moment, women's basketball. Don't screw it up, because this is the most eyes that has ever been on the sport. And, again, my one piece of advice would be, next time there's a huge game, sit your officials down prior to it and get them to breathe a little bit and realize it's not about them. But other than that, yeah, not a lot to complain about.
By the way, we got breaking transfer portal news. Garrett, do you have this that I just sent to you?
Yeah.
McSamus. Yeah.
Yeah, and you wonder, is, okay, headed somewhere else? Is he headed to where Paul Mills is at Wichita State, or is he headed – Oral Roberts had a transfer, if you remember, who went O'Banner went to Tech. Mm-hmm. Tech was hot at the time, and of course now with Grant McCasland, who knows what happens there. But the L.J. Cryer news that came down earlier today, and now you have the Oral Roberts news from today, and man, let the bidding begin, so to speak. The women's basketball note, as Charlie Baker was saying this just a couple of days ago about the women's or the NCAA and their championship contract with ESPN coming up, other than football and in men's basketball, which are the two major revenue producers. If you're an AD and this information today, the nearly $10 million at point where Craig peaked at $12 million, the timing of it, like Craig said, don't screw this up. There's a chance. I don't mean that everyone becomes a revenue sport in women's basketball, but there's a chance that women's basketball starts to bring in the revenue that no one could have dreamed about.
You know, one of the things that I just noticed in the branding, look, from Coke, right? From Coke, from Corona, is that now, like, Sue Bird's in commercials. Who's in the one with Dave? That's in, like, the Coke Zero commercial where she's stealing.
No idea.
But they have I've seen it during every game. It's a Coke Zero commercial, and they're talking about Tamika Catchings. Tamika Catchings is in commercials. They're using WNBA players, college basketball stars from the women's side in marketing now, which is not something you saw a lot. It had to be somebody like Cheryl Miller back in the day. Yeah. Someone who was like really huge, Lisa Leslie, someone who was synonymous with that. And pretty soon I think you'll start seeing Brittany Griner out there doing more and more stuff. But yeah, you've got to, that helps. I think that helps because it gets people excited. It helps people know their names. Look, Bill Burr has a bit right now about the WNBA, and he says, he asked the women in the audience, he goes, who's your favorite WNBA player of all time? Who's the best player in the team in your town? You don't know, and it's very true to life. But if they get these players out there and people start to know them, then the buzz will grow. Personalities, and it'll grow and it'll help. They've got to keep riding a wave, like Craig said.
Yeah, and, pointed out Angel Reese's social media following and how huge of a following she has. So, yeah, get young girls and women invested and get some of the men invested as well. And, look, is there a chance that outdraws the men's national title game?
I don't know what the numbers are for the men. I'm not sure what they normally.
Well, yeah, because they haven't played it yet.
No, I'm talking about on average. I don't know what.
Well, last year was what Kansas UNC, 10.7.
Yeah.
So that's less than $1 million away. It very well could outdraw the men's game tonight. So yeah, if you're Charlie Baker, I do think some of that is just wishful thinking on it. Like he's speaking it into existence that like, yeah, women's basketball will be another piece of the pie. Of course he wants that, but I do think that to keep harping on it, like this is the moment for the sport. They're never going to have all of the things come together the way that they've come together between stars and the coaching and the brands and all of that. The way that it is right this very moment. And that's where I was saying earlier about Mulkey and Baylor of like, yeah, she could have won another 7 titles here and been the greatest of all time and all that. But just the level of influence, I guess, is probably the proper word on the sport. I think she probably done about as much as she could on a global scale as she did in Waco. Is that fair to y'all?
Yeah.
I mean, I think she'd about tapped out her reach as far as
if Baylor would have won it again this year, it would have been like UConn winning it again this year. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And plus, it's just only so big. Like maybe with LSU, it's the SEC, it's the huge university, it's the entire state of Louisiana. We know that they don't care about anything but winning, and I mean that. And Garrett, you know that it's
Very
just true. It's just true. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a very combustible element in the best kind of way. And I think that you see that reflected in the numbers. So we'll see how they do with that. And maybe Charlie Baker's onto something. But that is something to keep an eye on. I do wonder if the men's game draws 9.9 million viewers tonight because it was Kansas, North Carolina last year.
Two of the ultimate blue buds.
North Carolina barely outdrew that. So tonight with the two that we got on tap, that'll be interesting to see.
All right, here's one other note about what Charlie Baker said and what maybe is also can be confusing. ESPN has a deal right now for $34 million. I've used that figure many times to broadcast all Division I championships except football and men's basketball, which are in the billion range. That's for all other championships: softball, women's basketball, whatever else they broadcast. Is there a chance that women's basketball has their own separate television contract? Not trying to compare it to what they would make with men's basketball or even, again, football. We know that's on a completely different level, but is there a chance that the NCAA can get that separate with ESPN or put that on the market where it's just for the women's basketball and then, of course, the other championships could be a different contract deal? I may even text Jim Williams or Bob Thompson on that.
Yeah, I mean, they need to get into more of the proper, thought process as far like I don't know, like I have no idea on that from me. I would just be BSing to say like, oh yeah, sure. I have no idea how that's even viewed or even discussed or anything like that. So yeah, they would have to answer that. But I do think it's huge. I'm seeing a bunch of people pointing out all the different sporting events that it's now beaten. Like it had more viewers than the Daytona 500 and things like that. But that's, we're talking about one game, and then there was the 5.5 for South Carolina and Iowa as well. But, like, what about the rest of it?
Yeah, it could be a no-show.
Does the regular season matter at all? Like, I mean, and respectfully, I mean, is anybody going to be watching for, like, I don't know, like the 5 months of the actual season? Does that bring in enough viewers to justify a separate deal? And maybe it does. I don't know. That's what I'm wondering.
The men's tournament is about March Madness, and then, of course, the weekend in April. And it's not about who's playing each other in November. Those are separate deals. Baker said any conversation about including women's teams in what they do with men's basketball, and you may not know this, and hopefully I think you do, but the distribution of units. For every team that advances in the tournament, the conference gets a unit, and it's like the average over 6 years. That still remains to be seen depending on the new or the next TV deal.
I'm curious to see what Brett Yormark does with the men's contract and with basketball and how that moves forward with doubling down on that. Because again, the men's basketball numbers in the regular season, unless you're talking about, Duke playing UConn, in a non-conference game, or, when Kansas plays Gonzaga, like those do okay, but they don't do the numbers that the football does with the money they want to do in the regular season. And I think part of that is because of the overlap, right? So there's overlap. I remember Ian McCall talked about it a lot when we used to have him on the show. He was kind of in favor of some athletic directors of, after Thanksgiving is when the basketball season should start, and that they should do, you know, maybe a shorter non-conference run with better television products and a couple of, you know, Florida A&Ms in there, and then you know, most of your games are good games because those are the games that get you in the tournament, and then you dive into your conference season and go, and maybe have, like, the inter-tournament challenges in the middle of the year. You maybe have an extra one of those for television and move on and, like, really focus on the conference tournament and the tournament as opposed to that month in November, which is just kind of lost for college football. So,
all right.
Yeah, I wonder how much the start time affected it one way or the other, good or bad.
Well, it's also on ABC.
That's a big part of it was that it was. Oh wait, those don't matter, right? It doesn't matter.
No, it was on ABC.
The big networks don't matter.
And I don't know how many years in a row it has been, but it was probably for a while on ESPN. And I'm just saying that, but it was on ABC, and that makes a difference. And just like we've talked about with college football games, if you're on FS1 compared to Fox Sports or CBS or NBC or even Apple TV. All right, I am tweaking, as in Paul, the Masters Picks contest, and we'll have that up in the chat room before we say goodnight in about an hour. Coming up next, Chip Patterson from CBS Sports on tonight's championship game. His thoughts about UConn and San Diego State. David Hellman at 5:30 from Fox Sports, and then also Paul's Top 5 in less than an hour. And this is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Look, if you're looking for the best in local Texas craft bourbons, that's the place. Balcones, Devil's River, TX, Garrison Brothers. Man, I keep talking about this bottle of whiskey I got from Garrison Brothers. It is so good. If you've not had Garrison Brothers, you really need to try it if you're a whiskey aficionado like I am. I don't know if I'm a card-carrying member, but I do. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of whiskeys, and they have the best. And they go in there, I pop in there and see what they've got. And they always have something new that you can try. And their customer service is second to none. They've got this drive-through window that's so fast. So if you know what you want, you can go in there, drive up to the window and be like, hey, I need a bottle of this. And then, boom, you're on your way to your social event and on with your life. You can check them out on DoorDash as well. So if you're at a party or something and you need delivery, they can do that. They've got great promotions on Instagram. There's really nothing they don't have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, behind the bank.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Just as it's heating up on the courts, and so are the deals during Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $8,250 plus $500 to first responders. Or get 1.9% for 72 months. Pick from the best selection of brand new inventory in Central Texas. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the custom vehicle of your dreams. It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Chip Patterson, CBS Sports, will join us tomorrow. He's going to join us here in just a second. Tomorrow, a heads up, TCU head coach Sonny Dykes, Kansas State's Chris Kleinman will be a part of our show tomorrow. We'll also have Baylor's Director of Athletics, Mac Rhodes. And so that is tomorrow right here on 365 Sports as some of the spring drills and schedules start to wind down a little bit, and we'll start to get in. Also, at some point, we do believe that Grant McCaslin at Tech and then also head coach at UNT, Ross Hodge, will be a part of our show. We're now joined by Chip Patterson, CBS Sports. Wrote a massive, really in-depth Final Four preview before the tournament began down in Houston. He joins us now on 365 Sports. Chip, thank you for your time. Did anything of what you saw this past weekend surprise you with the 2 games?
Yes. I thought that the way that San Diego State had really, like they limited an Alabama team that obviously had a first-team All-American in Brandon Miller, but an Alabama team that had scored a lot of points. They hold them under 65. They hold a Creighton team that, while not necessarily up-tempo, certainly had firepower. They hold them under 60. Like, the trend for San Diego State was that, when San Diego State had its very few losses on the season, they happened when, a team was able to push it a little bit, make some shots. And, look, FAU is going to always be frustrated with some of the misses in what ended up being a game decided by the smallest of margins. But FAU, for the most part, had one of the best offensive performances against San Diego State that we've seen, not just in the NCAA tournament, but in the Mountain West tournament as well, all of postseason play. So I think that what surprised me the most was that FAU had so much offensive success and also lost.
Chip, so can they defend this Connecticut team, which goes 9 deep?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Can they defend this Connecticut team that goes 9 deep?
Not on the inside. They're going to have problems with Adama Sanogo and Donovan Clingan. And basically it just comes down to whether or not those guys can stay out of foul trouble. That's kind of the way that I see it.
Chip, how do you feel about just the matchup itself? A lot of talk about the blue bloods and the new bloods and the, I guess, no bloods in some ways. But what is your anticipation level for having 2 programs like FAU and San Diego State versus the norm?
2 thoughts on this. Number one, you just got like one of the bluest blue blood Final Fours of all time only 1 year ago with North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, and Villanova all in the Final Four at the same time. So, this is a little bit of a course correction, a little bit of a snap back the other way. I also think that in the context of just this season, it's reflective of what we saw. I mean, remember that stretch where nobody could hold on to being the number 1 team in the country? Mm-hmm. And it was just getting passed around and around and around. And then how many, Saturday nights or Sunday mornings did we look back at everything that had happened in college basketball? And we were like, wow, look at, 7 ranked teams lost to unranked teams. Or, the AP would come out and say, This is the most number of ranked teams that have lost in a single day, most number of ranked teams that have lost to unranked teams in a single day. Like, what it told us was the teams that we thought were the very, very best, the number one teams in the country, the margin between that number one team and other teams was small. And that the teams that were in the top 25, the margin between those teams and teams that weren't in the top 25, the margin was small. And so with that as my evidence of what this college basketball season was, now we get to the NCAA tournament, and we've got a 4, a 5, a 5, a 9. We've got a San Diego State first-timer, an FAU first-timer, Miami first-timer. To me, that is an NCAA tournament that is reflective of a regular season where the good teams were not that much far ahead from just the very good teams were not that much far ahead than the good teams. And when that margin is small and it's a single elimination tournament and a 40-minute basketball game where anything can happen, then I think that's why you saw some less than expected results, especially for the top 3 seeds.
Do you think that it's also due to the transfer portal?
Here's what I'll push back on. I think the transfer portal has had a bigger impact, not necessarily in not necessarily across the board in terms of like who's been historically good or not historically good, because you got to remember I also cover college football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cleans up in the transfer portal? Alabama. Like, who cleans up in the transfer portal? A lot of programs that have got a lot of history. LSU has had a great transfer portal class. But I think that the story for the transfer portal is that if you are a new head coach, you don't have any excuse. Not after what we saw Jerome Tang do at Kansas State, not after what we saw Dennis Gates do at Missouri, not after these coaches in their first or second year when they're able to flip a roster so quickly and achieve instant success. Those are the things that I think are going to create parity when it comes to the transfer portal. Not necessarily a big picture haves, have-nots within college basketball, but just the idea that especially in a sport like basketball, that if you can get 3 or 4 guys right when you land, then all of a sudden you could be having some real instant success. And so we don't need to have that long buildup. Like Dan Hurley tonight is the long buildup. You will arrive at UConn, you got a couple years where you don't even make the tournament. Then you get into the tournament, but you have trouble winning a game, advancing in the tournament. Now all of a sudden he's got this program on the cusp of a 5th national championship. That to me, doing it over a 5-6 year span, that's more traditional. And you look at some of this roster, it is Adama Sanogo, a 3-year player. It is Andre Jackson, a 3-year player. Jordan Hawkins, 2-year player. Donovan Clingan as a freshman. But then you go look elsewhere, and that's where you've got the situations like a Kansas State, like a Missouri, where a head coach gets in there, he flips the roster thanks to the transfer portal, and he gets them into the tournament. And in Kansas State's case, gets them all the way to the Elite Eight.
Chip, how do you see this game really shaking out? Do you think that San Diego State can hang for a little while, or is this one that's going to be all she wrote at halftime?
I don't know about at halftime, because San Diego State does at least have the ability to be able to control some of that based on what they do on offense. But I just fear that San Diego State's not going to be able to make enough shots. I mean, it was an incredibly encouraging sign to see Matt Bradley have such a big game against FAU. He had been a non-factor in the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight, and he has been, for the last 2 seasons, San Diego State's most important offensive player. But here's what I am remembering from Saturday night. Those Miami guards that are so good at getting downhill, Isaiah Wong, Nigel Pack, even Jordan Miller from the forward position, and they couldn't get anything at the rim. Nothing. That's the impact of Adama Sanogo. That's the impact of Donovan Clingan and what they can do. And I just worry that San Diego State, which is a little bit less skilled at the guard position and a little bit more undersized at the guard position, that when they're trying to get downhill and get to the free throw line, I just don't know if they're going to be able to finish strong because of what UConn has on the inside. So can San Diego State with really, really good defense, remember, they beat Ryan Kalkbrenner. The idea of going up against a really good all Big East 7-footer is not going to scare them. But I do think over the course of 40 minutes, we're going to see this be a little bit of a coronation by the time we get into the under 4 timeout. I don't know if they'll be clearing the benches, but I am predicting a double-digit UConn win.
Regardless of what happens tonight as far as the outcome, Chip, obviously it's been a banner year for the Aztecs, and they've done a lot of good for their athletics programs, but you're also a big college football guy. I know you've seen the talk about the Pac-12 and, SMU, San Diego State, all of that. How do you feel like the Aztecs fit as far as that potential new future of theirs, and how much do you think this basketball run has helped aid that or should help aid that?
I think the wheels were in motion at the institutional level. And like I do, that, wooing the university presidents is more important than winning public opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But for public opinion, goodness gracious, I'd announce it tomorrow. I would come out, unless they get totally blasted,
right.
But I would come out and I would say that San Diego State team that just made it to the national championship game and gave UConn all it could handle, we are inviting them to the Pac-12. And this is what we're going to do. San Diego State made it farther than UCLA. San Diego State made it farther than USC. Look at this great addition. That would be the PR side of this. But again, my assumption is that when you already have the institutional wheels in motion, then you're headed at least in that direction. This run, probably just makes it seem a little bit better and a little bit easier to sell to the general college sports public at large. In terms of the addition of San Diego State, you are getting a program that in both men's basketball and football has been the class of the conference of the Mountain West. So if you're going to have to reach down to pull up, so to speak, San Diego State is a great candidate and then an unsurprising one if the Pac-12 is seeking expansion targets.
What do you think happens in that regard? Like with expansion, the media deal, where do you stand on that?
I don't know what the timetable is going to be in terms of media deal, expansion, and how potential expansion has impacted when that deal is going to be, locked in, or whether they're going to, agree to one deal and then reopen it. I think in general that college football playoff expansion has created a bit of a lifeline for, the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big 12. There's a lot of panic about the financial gap between the SEC and the Big 10, but as long as there are 6 automatic bids to the 12-team playoff that are reserved for conference champions, then there is a competitive edge to not necessarily – you are giving up a lot at the bank, but you still have a path to be able to make it to the college football playoff. So, where are we headed with all this? You talked to me in July of 2022. I thought we were headed to a 230. I thought we were headed towards the doomsday power 2. Everything is exploding. And I think that, interestingly enough, college football playoff expansion, something that I fundamentally think we didn't need, might end up being the thing that sort of puts pause on this, barreling towards the future where the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, basically everybody but the SEC and the Big 10 is playing in a different universe.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. It was maybe an AD or somebody that mentioned they just want to have hope that the fact when you start practicing in August that you have a chance to play for the national champion no matter what conference you're in.
Right. And that's, when you've got, for example, there are 6 spots in the 12-team playoff that are reserved for conference champions, which means not just in the Pac-12, not just in the Big 12, but in the American Athletic Conference. You're showing up in fall camp all right, there's a path for us. In the Sun Belt, you're saying okay, here we go. Even in the Mountain West, if we pull all this together and if we beat everybody on our schedule, we can show up on Conference Championship Saturday where a win could end up giving us a shot at the national championship. So, yeah, there is an inclusion aspect of this where some of these leagues, they're going to have an understanding that financially they are at an enormous deficit, but competitively when it comes to competing for the national championship, they still have a way to put it all together. And look, San Diego State operates at a deficit to a lot of major athletic departments. And San Diego State is playing for a national championship on the first Monday night in April. and that's about all you can ask for.
Yep, we've had those presidents, ADs, whoever from those conferences get maybe $4 million, $5 million, $6 or $7 million, and now no matter which of the Power Five or whatever we want to call them, they would at least get 3-4 times that, and that's got to be a huge thing. Thank you very much, Chip. Great stuff. Great preview from Friday, and also thanks for your time from the tournament itself.
Sounds good. Y'all be well.
Chip Patterson, CBS Sports, on his thoughts about San Diego State and UConn, what he thinks is the difference, and then also even a lot of the discussion about realignment in college football, since he covers that very thoroughly for CBS Sports.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's kind of the same opinion about tonight's outcome, right? I mean, what's the spread at last look? Does anybody know off the top of their head?
It was 9 this morning.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious about where that was, just based on the general conversation. It seems like it's probably a pretty healthy number. So, yeah, I mean, good to get his thoughts. Enjoy his work. And 7, okay. I enjoy his work and, what he brings to the table as far as football. So I thought I'd throw that in there as well about expansion and get his thoughts. I think he's kind of where everybody is. But, yeah, it'd be one thing to be planning to announce San Diego State tomorrow and they lose by like 35 tonight. So
TCU
I guess
all over again?
Yeah, like TCU. Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's possible. Hopefully we get a better game than that, though. But I do think that if the timing, like I was talking about the timing of women's basketball right now and how all these elements are kind of coming together, it certainly seems like that same way for San Diego State as far as if they were ever going to make a jump up, take a stairway up to a different level. This run they've been on, and certainly wherever it ends tonight would be about all you could expect them to do, and they've done it well.
They have done it well. Good luck. I think San Diego State defensively plays so. I mean, they really get after it. So
you never know when shots are falling
game,
too.
no.
Like that's the thing is, like LSU yesterday, they're shooting lights out. I mean. But if they're not, then that's probably a different game because they're not up by double digits as quickly as they are. So, yeah, you just don't know when the game tips off of who's going to, be hitting their buckets and who's not. So, yeah, absolutely, that's something that remains to be seen.
The month of April, the NCAA tournaments end. Baseball has just started last week. You have the Masters, and then also the draft is later this week. Later on this month, too. All right, when we come back, Rodney Terry sat down with the field-of-68.com group, and they were asking him about the team, the roster, and how it was built. And I was kind of, I guess after watching it a couple of different times, I was like, man, I love his confidence. And really what he kind of said in reference to Chris Beard or anyone else. Chris Beard now, of course, is at Ole Miss. We'll have that. Jim Williams, a media consultant, used to be a part of some of those major deals. One of the things that sports department or athletic departments spend so much of their money on, an arms race of facilities and how they always have to just do that little extra, that and more. This is 365 Sports. It's Monday. Waco Custom Marketplace on Lake Air Drive in Waco shuts down here in about 45 minutes. They close at 6, so you have until then or tomorrow or Wednesday until 6 to order 30-pound sacks bags of live crawfish. The last price that I saw when I was there late last week was $3.05 a pound. When it first came out, at least when live crawfish season came back and you could get them, it was $4.50 a pound. So it's going down, unlike gas prices. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, full-service butcher shop, full-service bakery. Live crawfish, 30-pound sacks, just over $3 a pound. While this is the week, you get it in the order by 6. You could pick it up anytime after 4 o'clock Friday and also when they're open on Saturday. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So a couple of stories today. One, L.J. Cryer is leaving, transferring. He's informed the coaching staff. Hell of a player, had eligibility left. He did put his name in the NBA draft. Most thought that it was going to be no different than when Adam Flagler did it, or even when Maceo Teague did it, or others, and then come back and would play at Baylor. But there was always this, like I remember Ashley Hodge, who covers Baylor men's basketball like a blanket. I remember him saying that there was always a little bit of a concern with him, that he might start to wander, so to speak, and that would have such great value. So there is that story. And the other one, the women's basketball national championship game, nearly 10 million viewers, according to ESPN ABC, the highest watched women's basketball game of all time. And in fact, one of the large, and that doesn't include the streaming numbers. Is that right, Craig? Is that just the TV numbers?
Yeah, I assume that's just the TV. I didn't get into all that specifics, and it was just whatever initial number they spit out. So if that included streaming in their press release, then it did, but I didn't see that part of it.
Okay, so there's that as well. A huge number, absolutely a massive number for the game yesterday between LSU and their win against Iowa.
I mean, yeah, how about this? I just taking this from somebody randomly, but I guess last year's game had 4.85 million. The year prior, 4.07. So, yeah, they more than doubled, like I said in the press release, over 100% year-over-year gain. And, yeah, that was on ABC, which clearly made a massive difference. So guess what's probably going to be on ABC moving forward? The Women's Basketball National Championship game. And I guess now it's just a question of when they'll start it. Are they going to do it afternoon like they did yesterday? I mean, it worked out well. Or do you try to, like, squeeze prime time now? Like, I mean, I'm sure that's the question that they'll start asking in addition to, like, Charlie Baker. Is this a new revenue stream potentially? And I think most of all it's going to be something in this NIL world where you're going to see probably a lot more of the Angel Reeses of the world. And I was saying about Mulkey earlier, just LSU, and how this kind of, like, you know, took her to a different level, that she had kind of like tapped out at Baylor in terms of just the exposure piece of it. But if you look at LSU in particular, between Angel Reese in basketball and then like Olivia Dunn over in women's gymnastics, and you think of like Joe Burrow and the way that he was covered and marketed and all of that. And, you know, I'm sure there's others, like I know the baseball team's #1, but just in terms of, you know, flexing that muscle and that star power and having that crossover appeal. I mean, it's hard to find many programs that are probably doing it at high of a level as LSU right now in terms of the star power. So whatever you chalk that up to, Scott Woodward, obviously some of that. Their marketing team, like I saw, and I don't know how big of a deal this is, but for example, there was a tweet I saw about how there's like a social media person. I don't know what her exact title is for like LSU. And so as the game's winding down, she has all of the players' cell phones like littered across the table so that I guess as soon as they're done, like literally to the side of the court, here's this table with like 20 cell phones. So like, you know what the priorities are, like get on social media, promote, post, do all this stuff. So they're working it, man, is my point. And you can see, and I'm sure we will continue to see, like, what kind of a profound effect that can have on just the overall athletic department as a whole. But between Reese and Dunn and, you know, like I said, even going back to a Burrow and whoever else I might be missing in there, they've gotten a lot out of the off-the-court part of it as much as they have the on-the-court part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's they're capitalizing, I hope, for the whole sport that they can.
Yeah, there's one note on here on the graphic, and it's the most viewed NCAA women's college basketball game on record across all networks. It also mentioned most viewed college event ever on ESPN Plus, men's or women. So the numbers that include, and that's fine. It doesn't matter how much it includes, because it's all about how much you put inside that pie. And so there's the number with LSU and also Iowa. And I get what you're saying. And Brian Kelly, remember when he was first hired, there was like almost a blowback.
Well, speaking of social media, him dancing in the one recruit's visit, that turned out to be kind of embarrassing to an extent, but
his weird accent that one night.
Okay,
I mean,
that was still just weird,
stupid,
man. I don't care how they try to spin that. That was just strange. It was, but yeah, you're right. So yeah, Brian Kelly too. I should definitely include him. I mean, that was a very calculated hire, and they knew what they were doing with that. And so, yeah, I mean, if you can deal with the personalities like Scott Woodward clearly can, whether it's Kelly or Mulkey or whoever, then, you know, you've got a lot of great coaches on board, and you're seeing that pay off for them. But I know you want to also get to the Rodney Terry thing, too.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so thefieldofsixty8.com, Goodman, John Fanta, Rob Douster, among others. They're doing, Terrence Oglesby, they're doing a sit-down. They did this. They were live. They had a great setup. Coaches coming and going. Here is a comment, a question about the Texas roster and Rodney Terry's response.
You know, Chris is a great coach, and again, someone I respected for over 20 years in the business. But again, Chris didn't put this roster together by himself. We put this roster.
Tell him again, RT. Tell him again.
I recruited 3 starters.
Tell him again now.
You know, I'm not one to pat myself on the back, but you know, heck, we got in the trenches together.
There you go. You ain't got to do that. Don't disrespect you either now. Don't disrespect you either now. They ain't do that by himself.
We put this roster together, man. I recruited 3 starters on this roster here, so let's don't get it twisted. it. But no, and you know what? It's a team effort. It's always a team effort, in terms of putting a roster together. I've been at Texas basketball, when we've had the highest of highs. I mean, you could go back to the best 5 seasons in Texas basketball, and I've been a part of them the entire time. So I know the landscape. I know what it takes to be successful at this university. And, we're going to roll our sleeves up and get after it. We're going to try to get the best guys, not only in the state of Texas, but also around the country and, internationally to come in and represent the university the right way, both on and off the court. But it'll be a group, it'll be a team effort in terms of putting a really good roster together. But, we're here for no other reason to try to win a national championship.
Do you like the timing of the portal? Like the thing that makes me so frustrated with the way that this works is like.
All right, that's Rodney Terry. That was a clip, and then the follow-up question, that was already over.
You know what's interesting to me about this is that Rodney Terry is not responding to criticism from most people outside of the Texas fan base. That criticism comes mostly from inside the fan base, the people who are concerned. And look, the Texas fans and the fans of every school like this, but Texas is particularly famous for this. Whenever there's a job open there, they want to be like, okay, well, who are we going to hire for the football job? Nick Saban. We can't get Nick Saban. Reanimate Bear Bryant. Get him here. That's kind of how they were. And so when Rodney Terry's rolling along in the Big 12 and it's starting to look like, hey, maybe you should just give him the job, there was a huge surge of people like, no. Chris Beard built a roster. This is not Rodney Terry's roster. He's winning with players he didn't get. So, yeah, I'm glad that Rodney Terry said, no. Hey, look, it was all a team effort here. In my opinion, he was not dogging Chris Beard at all there. But he was saying, like, look, there is more to it than everybody was giving him credit for.
He was definitely not dogging Chris Beard, and the only reason it even began to even sound like that was because one of the co-hosts pumped his head up and it's made it more of a thing than it was. Like, tell him now, that whole thing. And so he had to kind of reiterate and puff his chest out a little bit, just having fun there. So, yeah, I mean, without that prodding, I think that he just continues to talk, and it's really not that big of a deal. And he's right. I mean, is he wrong that he didn't help create part of the roster and get it all together? No, he did. So, I think he'll have no trouble. I mean, he's never worked with the elements and the things at his disposal that he'll have as head coach at University of Texas. And so I think he'll do well and he'll be successful. I certainly don't think he was their first choice, if you started from scratch, but because of the job that he did, he earned the role. And I don't think that anybody really has any qualms with that whatsoever. I'd be just playing what if, just randomly, just random thoughts or whatever. It's not important, and I never really need to know the answer to this question, but I would be curious to know before the way things went the way that they did, the next time Texas went looking for a basketball coach, where would he have ranked on there? I guess in terms of phone calls. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, is there a scenario where he ever gets that job in another way?
I would think, I don't know this, Paxton and UT. Yeah, I don't think he probably would have been among the targets.
I don't know that he ever gets this job without it unfolding the exact way that it did. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, that's just the magic of life working the way that it does and timing and all of those things. So, yeah, that's what I mean is I'll never know the answer and I don't need to. I just look at it that way of wow, this probably doesn't happen any other way other than this particular way. And maybe it does. But regardless, good for him. I can see where some folks will blow that out of proportion. But, again, I think that was just the kind of the egging on of I tell him now, that really kind of made that more of a, no, I did this,
Well, it was also 3 people talking over themselves.
There's a lot of muffled.
On occasion, I do with Paul and Craig, and then everyone just shuns me for a few minutes. Paxton, they can do, not every school can. He's talking about Jay Wright. He said Jay Wright, of course, Jay Wright would be everyone would want Jay Wright. He looks pretty damn comfortable with what he's doing right now on that CBS set. And then also he thought maybe Rodney Terry would be the number 2 target.
Maybe.
So you're telling me that if Chris Beard would have left for, let's say, an NBA job, because not many people leave Texas to go to a larger school. That just doesn't happen unless they're fired or asked to leave. I can't imagine Rodney Terry would have been the number 2 target behind Jay Wright.
I mean,
maybe you were looking at it wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I can't imagine. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, maybe we're looking at it wrong. Yeah.
But that's what Paxton's saying. So I got to defer to a guy that would probably know some of the inside, at least of what the scuttlebutt would be.
Well, yeah, I mean, he did, he was kind of agree with me that the fans can just okay, who's the top of the list? That not always is the best fit. You know, and then they can like convince that like these things get on the boards and they work themselves around of like, oh, Austin's the favorite city. Yeah, everybody loves Austin. Okay. Like there's like, that's not, you know, for debate most of the time. It's about the fit and like letting the athletic director find the fit, and the fit for this team was Rodney Terry. And also look, Jay Wright didn't leave Villanova because he was, you know, wanting another opportunity, because he could have done that 100 times before he even won 2 national titles there. Jay Wright left because he was retiring. You know, like
and we don't know about some of these coaches who are retiring because they say they're retiring and then they come back, but some of them may not want to deal with the new age of what they have when it comes to NIL and the transfer portal.
No,
and that's fine.
And I don't mean this like, I would say this if Jay Wright was the, you know, going for the job at you know, another, like just another big time school, like if he was taking the UNC job. I wouldn't, if I'm Jay Wright, I'm not leaving my program to go to Texas and rebuild it.
Just stay at Villanova.
Just stay at Villanova,
Paxton,
where you can roll on.
Paxton said, and of course this is his 3. Jay Wright, we know that Texas is going to reach for the biggest name. Nate Oates and Tom Izzo. And I could never see Izzo. Again, we don't ever say ever, but Tom Izzo's not leaving Michigan State's basketball program.
He's 67 years old.
But
like,
Nate Oates is an interesting name. In
no, like here's the thing. Chris Beard's a young guy. Nate Oates is a young guy. Rodney Terry's a younger guy. Like, Tom is like Jay Wright and Tom Izzo are older coaches. Tom Izzo's Michigan State's his program. He's not leaving Michigan State. He's 67, 68 years old. They'd be like saying, hey, Coach K, come here. You know, like, no.
Craig, like, who would you think would be a part of that list other than the ones he mentioned? Anybody in particular off the top of your head?
No. I mean, those seem like the ones. And what I was saying earlier about maybe we're thinking the wrong way is everybody just assumes that they only swing big and that they only have this, like, fantasy roster of names like Nick Saban in football, because that's where this all stems from, right? That's what we all go back to is the Nick Saban courtship in football. That's why we all make the joke about Texas and their head coaches of like, oh, well, go dig up Bear Bryant or, you know, whatever the thing is, and instead they hire Steve Sarkisian, you know, that kind of a deal. So maybe they would have gone Rodney Terry. But no, I'm sure there were some bigger fish, because I do think there's some element of truth that, yeah, there is that splash that they want to make, or that big name attached to the big brand. But I also think they're Texas because they're also smart people. So if Rodney Terry would have been the best choice or the second best choice behind a retired Jay Wright, then I'll take your word for it. But, yeah, I have no idea. That's why I said from the very beginning, like, maybe this is the only situation that he finds himself in as the Texas head coach. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because he's the head coach now, and it worked out the way that it did.
So let's think about, since Darryl Royal
David
left.
Hellman.
Huh?
David Hellman.
I know that.
Okay.
Can I think about the football coaches since Darryl Royal left? Fred Akers was not a huge name. John Malkovich wasn't a huge name. Mac Brown was not a huge name. Sarkisian playing offensive coordinator at Alabama, but still not a huge name. The timing was good. And so in basketball cases, they've had kind of that same mixture. Chris Beard was red hot, plus he had, of course, been at Texas, a connection there. David Hellman, Fox Sports, is next.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for not only a great deal on your vehicle, but for a wide variety of vehicles, for great deals, for great customer service. They've been all over the place as far as that goes in a good way. And right now their 24th anniversary sale is ongoing. Big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks, and special savings on vehicles like the GMC Sierra and Buick Envision SUVs. Their offerings right now, including as far as the new vehicles go, dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot. Qualified buyers can save thousands on the 2023 SLT 1500s or get special financing, 2.9% to be exact, on just the regular 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. If you're looking at SUVs, they've got the smooth and quiet ride of the Buick Envision. Qualified buyers can get lease payments with $5,000 down cash or trade at $269 per month and save thousands on the purchase of a new Buick Envision. But they've also got plenty of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well, many of those under $20,000. They're thoroughly inspected, they're affordable, and they're ready to finance for almost
any credit rating, quality vehicles, pre-owned and brand new, ready to drive today. And if you are perhaps just wanting to drive your vehicle for a little while longer, their award-winning service department standing by to keep you on the road. So go to the website, richardcar.com, to see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable service. Again, in business for 24 years in Central Texas, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call now or go see them now. Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
Mondays in the 5 o'clock hour, David Hellman, Fox Sports. David, I'll start with this. Obviously, the women win the national title yesterday. Craig was bringing this up. Is this one of the best stretches right now overall for LSU in athletics?
I think, really since about the year 2000, I'd say in general. I mean, we had a really dominant run of baseball in the 1990s, but for the most part, in the other big sports, we didn't win a whole lot. I mean, football won a national title in the 50s. Men's basketball has been to a handful of Final Fours, but since 2000, we've won 3 football championships, a women's basketball championship, half a dozen women's Final Fours. We've won a baseball championship. Across the last 20 years, the gym program is fantastic. I don't know if this 4-year stretch compares, especially when you consider how dominant the baseball team was in the 90s. But But certainly over the last 20 years, it's been, you would have to call this some kind of golden era for the school as a whole, for sure.
Are you going to start wearing, when you make your TV appearances, Kim Mulkey jackets, David?
Man, I think I'm still a little new to the game to try to get away with something that's swaggy. Like Kim Mulkey can do what she wants. She's won 4 titles.
Yep.
She's done it at 2. She's done it at 2 programs now. When you have that many skins on the wall, you can do what you want. I think I got to stick around the TV game for a while before I try something that flashy.
I don't know, man. Those pink feathers, I think that'd be a hit. I think that'd go over really well, man.
The feathers were impressive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've kind of touched on it here. You're obviously excited, but just what were your thoughts as Mulkey and the women ran through, and Angel Reese, obviously, and the rest of that star-studded cast ran their way into the championship game and ran right past Caitlin Clark in Iowa?
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on women's basketball. I mean, I followed I followed LSU's team this year, and I had a general idea of what to expect. I mean, South Carolina was unbeaten, going for a repeat. Caitlin Clark's obviously amazing, but just having watched LSU in the tournament, I watched both of the games on what was it, Friday, and I was like, okay, I don't know what South Carolina was doing wrong, but I think we're built to beat this team. Like, Caitlin Clark is going to get her stats, obviously. She's incredible. But I think we got the bodies to out-physical them in the paint, and if they shoot fairly well, I think we're a better team than this. I think it was a very classic case of better team versus better player, and we just got some awesome contributions. Jasmine Carson just going berserk from 3-point range was incredible. And, I thought we had a good shot to win, but they played even better than I expected them to. I mean, to run away with a championship game like that against such a phenomenal player was really, really impressive.
They just had more of athletes and better
Absolutely.
talent. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and no matter what Caitlin Clark could bring to the table. All right, so we're now the month actually officially of the NFL draft. Where are you in putting all your stuff together as far as focused on who does what?
Well, the nice thing for me, I mean, I have all the respect in the world for the people that watch hundreds, if not thousands of prospects. By this point in the process, somebody like Dane Brugler's probably watched 1,200 players. That's just never going to be me. I'm just not that guy. I admire them, but so I feel really good about where I'm at. I mean, I feel like I've got my hands around the top 100 or so prospects, the guys that we expect to hear their names get called on Thursday and Friday. And more important than that, I think we're starting to get an idea of what the Cowboys are doing. I think we talked about this last week, but this is the week that they're hosting their 30 visits. You're seeing some of those names leak on the internet today. Kind of surprisingly, in my opinion, it looks like they are hosting a good number of receivers at their facility, which, not that I'm surprised that they're looking at receivers, but this is such a small receiver class. Like, so many of the big names in this receiver class are 5'10" and under. So to see them associated with some of those names is it's a little bit of a departure from what we're used to. And I credit them. I think they're much better at keeping this thing a little bit less predictable since Mike McCarthy got to town. I'll never forget in 2018, we knew Leighton Vander Esch was going to be the pick as early as Valentine's Day. They didn't really bother trying to conceal their intention. And then really since 2020, I mean, you can put an educated guess together, but they've been much better about keeping it a secret. So I was a little bit surprised to see some of those names that they are reportedly hosting. And if anything, I'll probably spend the next week or two going back and double-checking some of those names that I wasn't expecting to hear. And hopefully 3 weeks from now, we'll have a pretty good short list of what we expect to hear on the first couple nights of the draft.
What was the biggest surprise on that list to you?
I mean, right off the top of my head, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm again, a guy like Zay Flowers. I mean, he's an incredible player. Don't get me wrong, but he's 5'8", I think, maybe 5'9", depending on, what type of shoe he was wearing at the combine. He's just, he's a shifty slot type of receiver. This isn't a first-round pick, but, they've been linked to the Houston kid, Tank Dell, who, again, phenomenal player. I think he scored 17 touchdowns at Houston last year. But they just typically have gone after bigger players. And when you consider that CeeDee Lamb is largely a slot receiver, I just didn't think they would go that way. But, if they're entertaining that, I think you have to reconsider what they're looking for or what their game plan might be. So, again, not saying those guys are going to wind up being their picks, but it just kind of opens your eyes to what they may be thinking. So, yeah, Zay Flowers was a name that I was a little bit surprised to see him on their list.
Is there ever any gamesmanship on who you bring in just to throw people off, or is that giving it too much credit?
I don't think you would waste a visit on gamesmanship, again, because you only get 30 of these. But I will say, and I try to tell people this all the time, just because they bring them to their facility doesn't mean that they are in love with the guy. A lot of times you'll bring a guy to your facility because he's recovering from a surgery, and, maybe a month ago at the combine, he wasn't all the way recovered. Maybe you want to double check. Maybe you want to have your own doctors look at him and see if they agree with the assessment that came out of the combine. Maybe you want to, have a day to spend with him. If there's character concerns or concerns that maybe he doesn't love the game or something like that, you get to spend a day with him and really just hound him about football for 12 to 15 hours. So a lot of this stuff can be cross-checking. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're head over heels in love with the guy and they're going to make him their pick. So I think that's something worth keeping in mind. But yeah, when you only get 30 of these, I don't think you're going to waste it on gamesmanship.
Yeah, David, like you mentioned the other wide receiver. Jonathan Mingo's one of the guys apparently they're bringing in from Ole Miss. He's like 6'1". Like, that makes more sense to me. Quentin Johnston's gonna be there. Obviously, he's local anyway, but he's a big dude. There's not a lot of big receivers in the draft. To me, if you're gonna bring in Brandon Cooks and you already have, CeeDee Lamb, you'd want a big guy.
I'm completely with you, Paul. That's why I was looking at Mingo. I was looking at Quentin Johnston. I was looking at both of the Tennessee kids, Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. Like, there are some big receivers, but they're kind of few and far between in this class. But maybe you could look at it as like a contingency plan. Maybe if they have a certain grade on Zay Flowers, and he's if he's the guy that they like the most that's available, maybe you draft him and say, okay, he's our primary slot, and CD can play outside. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's played plenty of football outside in his career. So there's ways you can do it. But like I said, I didn't expect them to consider some guys like that. So that's again, that's what's fun about it is, it's like doing a puzzle, and I think that they've done a better job of concealing the end result than they did in years before.
What would be in fans' minds the boring pick at 26, but one that you think would be the one that could maybe hit the ground running the most and help this team get over the hump?
Probably offensive line. And I guess if they were going to do it, it would probably be a guard or an offensive tackle who could move inside to guard at least for a year, just like they were planning with Tyler Smith last year. So whether that's, you hear a lot of hype about the TCU guy, Steve Avila, Osiris Torrance, the guard out of Florida. I'm just thinking of guards off the top of my head. But, I mean, nobody's ever going to get super jacked for a guard. You're not going to sell a ton of jerseys drafting one. But if you plug a quality guard in between Tyler Smith and Tyler Biotish to go with the other pieces they have on the offensive line, I think that would go a hell of a long way toward helping your offense. And we've seen it before. I mean, by and large, they've been very successful when they spend big picks on offensive linemen, just plugging them in.
David, thank you very much. David Hellman, Fox Sports.
Appreciate it, guys.
You two on Mondays in the 5 o'clock hour. And that now leads us to Paul Catalina's Top 5, and that is next.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business? we kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef, and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Thank you to Texas Beef House, our new sponsor there.
By the way, Kim Coulter ordered online. And Friday when we mentioned them. Put up the link, TexasBeefHouse.com. Paul?
Top 5 ACC QBs. We're going to do this as we move through spring football and see what kind of buzz we can get. This one was a little easier to do. Big Ten's going to be tough. There's some transfers. There's a lot of things going on there. The SEC was tough. We had a knockdown, drag-out fight. I thought Garrett was going to stab Jack. It's just how it goes. But top 5 ACC QBs. This is a kind of a quarterback heavy league at the top, but after these 5, there's a lot of mystery. Number 5, and he's coming off an injury-plagued season, but if he can come back and have a good, 6th year, Phil Yurkovich at Boston College. Now, we just talked a lot about Zay Flowers with David Hellman. He's missing his best weapon, although Zay Flowers was missing Phil Yurkovich for most of the year last year, but this is a dude who can play a little bit and could maybe get Boston College back in a bowl game. Their year was just so derailed by injuries last year. You just couldn't even expect anything from him, and not having him for a good large swath of it, not good.
Got bad news for you, Paul.
What? He's gone?
He's at Pitt now.
Oh, I knew it. Pitt. I knew he was at Pitt. That's stupid. Stupid.
Same
All right,
conference.
Let's start it over. You know what, Craig, get out.
We've been doing this for nearly 3 years, and this has happened maybe 3 times.
Yeah, it happens. I just had it in my head. I was thinking about it. I knew he left. He's at Pitt. That's better for him. It'll work out for Pitt. Pretend that last shit didn't happen, and we're just moving on.
Well, okay. Boy,
just pretend. I don't care.
Emery, I'm sorry you heard that.
just
number 4.
Number 4, Cade Klubnik.
Jeez.
I mean, it's the same conference, though, like I said. So
yeah. He's there. I knew it. Thank you for correcting me. But
you sure?
Yeah. No, I'm
no.
fine.
I mean, honestly, like it's almost like you're taught, like just pretend that wasn't said or whatever. And like I agree, there's sometimes, but like no, I'm not going to let that go.
No,
I'm
not.
I mean,
I'm
if
saying,
you wouldn't have brought it up,
I'm saying pretend I didn't say it.
If y'all ever did that to me, this place would burn
down. Well, there was
down.
one time there was something very subtle, and I remember it bothered you.
It
but we
bothered.
did, yeah.
I don't like being wrong, and I don't mind being corrected. Like, don't do it in a jerk way. But yeah, I mean, if I'm wrong about something, let me know. Don't let me keep talking like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Woodrow would be so disappointed.
I was saying, rewind, forget that I said that he was at Boston
yeah.
College. That's what I was trying to forget about. Yes, he's good for Pitt.
I can't wait for the replay comments.
Yeah. If you have a comment on it, you can,
It's too late. They're already talking.
Yeah, don't care. It happens. I'm not perfect. I mean, look at me. I'm fat and disgusting. So I'm not perfect. Number 4, Cade Klubnik from Clemson. This dude can ball, and he's got Garrett Riley now. So that means that they're going to be interesting to watch on offense. They have to take that step forward. That's why they made this change with Cade and sent a number 1 overall recruit all the way across the country in DJU going to Oregon State. It's kind of, it's not make or break for Clemson, obviously, but there's heat because there are good quarterbacks in this league. And the only reason I had Cade this low is just because he hasn't played all that much, but he's going to be surrounded with great talent, and I expect nothing but a ridiculous, fantastic year from him. But the ACC is much more in question now than it has been over the last, 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they need a little something new and fresh after the way, the DJU situation kind of came to an end there. And obviously Klubnik was involved, back and forth with DJU as far as the starting job goes. But you just kind of felt towards the end of the year that, there was a turning of the page that was going on. And, I think it makes sense to roll with Klubnik. I mean, you saw a lot of DJ Uiagalelei, and good luck to him at Oregon State, but it did feel like, in order to kind of turn the page, and I keep using that, but that Klubnik was the guy. And now with Garrett Riley, I think that's a fascinating hire. It just feels like Clemson's they're not stale, but and it's only been a couple years since, it's not like they've been in some massive downturn, but maybe I'm wrong on this, but it just kind of feels like they're, again, not stale, but they need a little bit of a little shake them.
They've been figured out a little bit.
Yeah, they don't have they're not as bulletproof as they maybe once were. And so, they're starting to get figured out a little bit. So, I'm fascinated to see now that it's fully Klubnik's team and they've got Garrett Riley there. That was obviously a big swing, and let's see what Dabo can do with that.
I've seen a couple of quotes maybe from Clemson writers on Dabo Swinney when people have brought up maybe they're slipping. And, of course, he's a fiery guy, and he disagrees with that. And, well, now the season will begin in September.
Yeah, I think it just feels like they're at a point now where they could slip further if they don't kind of correct it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I mean, by slipping, they're clearly still one of the best teams in college football.
Yeah, but you can get stagnant. And I think that they got stagnant, and part of it was just, Dabo Swinney really believed in his people, and sometimes you kind of have to
and the expectations
step outside
are just
of it.
So monumentally high. Yeah,
and I don't think that they're not spinning out of control in the same conference FSU was last couple years of Jimbo, and then into what they were until now. But they're not that. But you just run the risk of being a team that's consistent, but then you're going back to where was that you had before? How come you can't? Because they can get whoever they want. They recruit SEC players in the ACC. Alabama would want most of their roster, so it's not like they're not getting those guys.
He was asked after the bowl game about if Clemson is slipping. I know we got to go. I mean, I don't know. We were 11-3. Sure, I wish we were undefeated, but we've won the league 7 of the last 8. I think that's only happened one other time, and that was in the 70s by Alabama. We've been pretty consistent. We're going to continue to be consistent and keep trying to do everything we can to be undefeated around here. Then he went on to a few other things as well. But it is out there, and he knows it's out there, and sometimes coaches can handle it well. Sometimes they can get defensive.
Did he not know the history of his own league? The team that won the conference the first 15 years they were in it? So we won the league 7 of the last 8. I don't think it happened in the 70s. It happened in his own league from 1992 to like 2005.
Yeah, but he can only talk about when he's been there. He's been there
yeah.
for like not very long.
Yeah, but I mean, he kind of know that. Number 3, Brennan Armstrong transfers from Virginia to NC State. This one I know for a fact is true. This one, he, did not work out with Tony Elliott, which really surprised me. I thought Tony Elliott was going to be good for him. Granted, last year in Virginia ended in tragedy, and before that even happened, they just were adjusting to the new system. He moves on to NC State, which is a really good system for him. They lose Devin Leary, who was my number 1 SEC quarterback last week. So Brennan Armstrong moves on to NC State. I think they'll still be someone to be reckoned with in the ACC, although, maybe not quite what they were a year ago, but I still think they're going to be good because Dave Doran's an excellent coach, and they're the team that people aren't going to talk about because they kind of play a bit of a boring style, based on today, but man, they're efficient. They're really good. They're really efficient on both sides of the ball, and they don't mess around, and this is going to work out well, I think, for Brennan Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good program. He's got connections there. Shouldn't have to have much of an adjustment period whatsoever. Yeah, it was a disappointing year last year for Virginia, just kind of all the way around. But he's a good player. He can make an impact.
Yeah. Number 2. Yeah, I did it. Drake Mays at number 2. He's great. He's going to be a top 10 pick, probably a top 5 pick. There's no doubt about that. But he's number 2 in this league.
Man, that garnet and gold, whatever it's called, is coming out in your head.
Oh, look. Go ahead and talk about Drake May for a second before I start singing a love song to Jordan Travis.
I just think the people who don't know that we went to FSU are confused. What is the big buildup?
Paul went to Florida State.
But he went to Florida State.
They're doing
for those
better.
that don't
They got
know.
a great quarterback coming back.
Yeah, Drake May's a great player. Obviously, we'll have all of the draft nicks talking incessantly about him, or if they haven't already started in on talking about him, even though he's not eligible yet. But yeah, I mean, the countdown to his NFL draft selection feels like it's basically on, and what he can accomplish in Chapel Hill prior to that is the big question for every college football fan. Showed a lot of exceptional talent. Wasn't perfect by any means. I think just overall, considering the type of player you have, you better hope that Mac Brown can get a little bit more out of that before May moves on after next year. So that's the big thing to me is just, what can Max squeeze out of having this terrific quarterback and the weapons around him. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a fun story to watch and obviously huge expectations.
Number 1, Jordan bleeping Travis. Look, the way he's shot up the charts. I know that I am biased, and he closed the year so extremely well last year. They have got, the one thing that he has to do is the reason that they weren't better last year and the reason that, you have some doubts is that the 3 teams they lost to were the 3 other good teams in the ACC. So they've got to start beating those teams. They've got to beat Clemson. Look, they're not spending all this money on the transfers and, raiding the portal to not beat Clemson. They've got to beat Clemson this year and take that step. If not, this might all wind up being all for naught in a chance to make a run at the college football playoff this year. They returned a ton of players, really only lost one guy to the draft, Jamie Robinson, the safety. Everybody else is back, all the starters of a team that won 10, 11 games last year. So they are loaded for bear, or 10 games, I guess. They were 10-3 last year. They are loaded for bear. This guy gets better and better and better. He's a difference maker. It doesn't matter where you are in the game. He can bring you back. This dude can play. And again, he's a veteran, a 6th-year guy, probably why even I might have put him above Drake May, even if I was not bleeding garnet and gold, as you can see it flying out of my eye sockets right now. But Jordan Travis is that dude.
Never has anything been mentioned and had a longer discussion than this one with Jordan Travis at 1.
No. Well, I mean, if you're going to sing a love song, you got to make it count.
Greg?
Yeah, he's a really good player. The expectations for them are massive now at this point. I mean, the build-up's been there for the last few months. But, yeah, I mean, if FSU doesn't win the ACC next year, I think that's a disappointment. And I'm not of the Noel tribe, so, I mean, maybe others see it differently. But you can't tell – I mean, explain to me how they shouldn't be expected to win the ACC next year. I mean, just because of Clemson?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason, right?
Yeah, I would beat him in a few years.
Everybody's come back. Everybody's come back, basically. Coaching staff, everybody's bought into that. Everybody's excited again. They're winning again. I mean, they should be the favorites, and I don't see why he shouldn't be, the number one guy unless you just like somebody's skill set a little bit better. But no, he's a great player, and he and the Noles have some big shoes to fill next year.
Yeah, the reason you keep all the guys and you get all the transfers is because of him right there. Really.
Yeah. You never know. All right, Paul's top 4 today on. So Paxton. So it's Craig's top 5 at 5:55. Kim Coulter, that was hilarious. Sir blah blah blah. I was last wrong in 1979. Let's see here. There's a few other ones, Paul. That was fun. Great stuff. Had fun with it. And we appreciate your time in the chat room. We're working on the link for the Masters picks, and Paul's going to try to put it in one link. I have it up in the forums on our site, Sikkim365.com, but I want to do that. I promise you we'll have it up tomorrow when we first start the show. I don't want to just throw something together, but we'll get that done. All right.
By the way, Bobby B., how dare you? Burt Reynolds is a Seminole. He was not a Gator.
Yeah.
Now, he played Gator in a movie.
Yeah.
That was a different movie.
Yeah.
Burt Reynolds starred as Gator.
One note on L.J. Cryer. This is from somebody that I saw on Twitter. Eddie Lampkin was a high school teammate of his. He went to TCU and now at Colorado. I don't think that's the answer. But then again, the L.J. Cryer was interesting. Congratulations to the women in basketball for the incredible numbers they got yesterday on ABC. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, thank you, our great sponsors. Our first day with TexasBeefHouse.com. If you haven't ordered, it's amazing. They will get that to you in a day. Garrett Ross, thank you. Emery Winter, thank you. 10:30 tonight. Sports Tonight on the CW. David Smoak, 365 Sports. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.